It's been a good 2 days. I know you've missed us, but we're back on your television screens. And of course, we're starting the day right with you, right here on the AM show. My name is Benjamin Akako. As always, I do this together with Sweetie Abochi. Welcome aboard. Now, to kickstart matters, we'll be serving you the news in a bit. Right after that, guess who joins us for the news review? Like we do every Wednesday, Dr. Kwame Asante. He is a political scientist and head of the Center for European Studies at the University of Ghana. That'll be followed by sports with Muftar Nabila Abdullah. And then we get into our big stories. What can you expect? No new taxes. Well, in terms of yesterday's media budget review, the introduction of road tolls in 2025, no additional expenditure, a new Labour bill, the prioritization of road projects, and more. Now, we'll be sharing with you the major highlights of the mid-year budget review, but the minority in Parliament has described it as hopeless and bereft of new ideas, and they are demanding that government scrap the numerous taxes and deliver the country from bankruptcy. We'll be delving into the salient issues together with our panel this morning on the show. But today being a Wednesday, we also serve you courtesy of EcoBank, the Pan-African Bank, AM Business. On that belt, James Eshen tells us how Ghana is working to increase its cocoa yield. You want to join us with your thoughts and comments on that one. And that's what the show looks like this morning. Stick and stay. We'll be back with more. The news is up next. Well, let's start off the news with some road bits. And some motorists in the Ashanti region are calling for the abrogation of the e-levy and other taxes as the government plans to reintroduce road and bridge tolls in 2025. Finance Minister Dr. Mohamed Amin Adam, during the 2024 mid-year budgetary review, announced that government had granted approval for the establishment of a framework for the toll reintroduction. Now, though positive on the impacts of the tolls, some drivers believe additional taxes on the citizenry is a bane to economic growth.
It's not a problem reintroducing the tolls, but they shouldn't compound it with the e-levy. They should scrap it.
Any problem? I told you, I got what the bar made a minute. If they are quite numbers, I quite to time. My discard, they're quite phone calls and numbers. Do you turn what the bar was on the phone? I remember they told no man to baby.
I don't agree with the reintroduction of the tolls. Of what benefit has it been to us? Our roads were bad when they were taking them. It's not necessary.
You told no man to baby now and fair one.
Some side about the Ababua, Abuama, Yapana, they say, in Yapana, Quasem, especially Salmon Ponting Road, you say. Now, Korea goes to a cheaper house and come to me, teacher part to a man will be the Bassa Babua. Only the tone become a behagene. There's a committee made ye flew at the allow, bet me.
It will help with road construction. We need roads now, and this will help with it. But it should not add that to the e-levy, or better, take away some taxes.
Yeah, 60 cities. I ain't you. The bus on the I win the bit my boy. As a driver, I'm here. Two new crampon. The own father and Fasulia Park, they say, planet Bama. And I say, am I a company or mine? Because I am who for to be free. It is what the boat. So on family, you my choice. Only and two move money with you. Who told me for the same wedding attempt? Because
the government doesn't heed to what we suggest. Whatever they feel like doing, they should.
Why go to me on go for? Only there's a go to an amazing go to for. And the Americans do only deciding your pet. You are not a pen on ye.
We are saying, baby, route to the MCA Juma. Minister no term, cramming who's also no. Actually, no, but as an oversadia banana, I had the amount for Casahuant. If he say, what the bar, a bebois, a memona, my quina was on me and on me in ye, papa, my because there will be a answer, Tiasia. eba sa so amanfo nso enye adwuma ye ama omugigi se ba e omutena fie.
Road tolls are implemented globally. The minister who even scrapped it regretted. I think the reintroduction will help, but they shouldn't increase the cost.
Now, residents of Komenda in the Central Region are accusing President Akufo-Addo of failing to fulfill his numerous promises to operationalize the Komenda sugar factory. According to the residents, their frustration is over government's decision to import raw and unrefined sugar after neglecting the factory for 8 years. In the following features editor Richard Kwejunyako reports that in addition to the initial $35 million investment, government claims to have invested over 50 million Ghana cedis into the Komenda sugar factory.
The amount of land we need for the sugar, the type of sugar we can grow here, all those things were not properly organized. I think the ASR organization, and also the between strategic investor and also it to me about Bisomu.
President Akufo-Addo making a promise to the people of Komenda. That was 5 years ago.
The Nikan sugar factory. Still, some civil works are being done there. Nyampa, by the end of March, it will be completed. And as I say, planning, no Indian phone by whatever, by April, production will have begun of the sugar factory.
President Akufo-Addo promising the people of Komenda again when the chiefs of Komenda paid him a visit at the Jubilee House. And yet another promise in 2021.
According to Chairman and the people in the Ministry of Trade, arrangements are one year by the first quarter of 2022. Now factory is going to start running again.
And another one in 2022. Other promises have been made to the people of Komenda by the president, but each time their hopes are dashed.
Unrefined sugar set up this one.
The setup for the unrefined sugar is too small.
See, I try machinery. I am his machinery.
Deputy Trades and Industry Minister Michael Acheampong announcing that government will be importing raw sugar to feed the factory.
Now the best we can do is because of America.
Now the best we can do is to import raw or unrefined sugar from South America until we get our own plantation.
The latest is Works and Housing Minister Acheampong. Mr. Acheampong, who was on a tour in the area, told the chiefs and people government needed their support in order to operationalize the factory.
Processed.
We don't have a plantation to feed the factory. What is left is to get raw sugar or unrefined sugar. When they are bringing it like that, government needs to waive the taxes on it to make it affordable. Our friends on the other side do not want to support it. We are appealing to you to intervene so they can allow us get the unrefined sugar to operationalize the factory.
This hasn't gone down well with the people.
Ministers what how be do no I'm won pay me bufu to man say me carpenter.
I get angry. The deception by some ministers who come here. I am a carpenter, so when I hear that a minister is coming, I know that he won't come and say anything good. I only have to concentrate on the job I have learned to take care of my family.
I go for amba commander amba ka sem pepe bia ma engine ndi asa wa gban so many years obado
I won't say anything that President Akufo-Addo says.
Second 4 years
consistently
also
lying to us. The last 4 years he deceived and he deceived us in his second term as well. So does he expect us to vote for him when he failed woefully?
in the market square here, scores of people have gathered in an indistinct chatter. The Commander Sugar Factory is one of the conversations that does not struggle to find place in what folks talk about here.
They have
wasted the land. We could have used it to build a mansion. It is better than leaving it in the state in which it is now. People feel that the Commander Sugar building is a deity.
Since 2015, meanwhile, I'm property. Since I'm property, Ghana property. Commander. Now, why the workers are off. I didn't use for nothing.
Ishmael Kobna talks passionately about the Commander Sugar Factory and how disappointed the community folk are.
Sugar factory now, when we are sure, they
have not planted any sugarcane here. Our prayer was that they would have grown some sugarcane to feed the factory. What we have observed is that the thought processes of our leaders is questionable.
The disappointment of Francis knows no bounds. Francis and his colleagues here say they have lost hope in government.
There was a
people are saying that they say they will import raw sugar to feed the factory. What we wanted was for them to support the farmers to plant the required sugarcane. This is really appalling.
The factory, commissioned in 2016 with a $35 million Indian Export-Import Bank loan facility and an additional $24 million to bolster the activities of sugarcane outgrowers, suffered operational challenges and has not produced any sugar for the market. The residents here say they won't forgive government for looking on for such a project to go waste. Heading to the Commander Sugar Factory, I meet Isaac Boama. Isaac says he is MPP but is embarrassed by the turn of event here. He says day in and day out, he gets trolled by his people over the Commander Sugar Factory and want government not to let down the trust of the people.
Commander drivers in Yasha self partition, shall be wide mouth for two. Ibian do mukomba in a brownie bre. Into a sack of ado.
We don't know what is even happening. We have been looking forward for the factory to be operationalized so we the drivers can get a boost in our work. We are suffering. We are pleading with the president to operationalize the factory. They always troll me about this sugar factory. It is because of Percy, who is contesting the KEEA seat. That's why I am in the
MPP. Former board secretary of the Commander Sugar Factory, Ransford Vani Amwa, believes government posture about the Commander Sugar Factory leaves much to be desired and want government to fix the mess.
So from 2017, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 24, they still not grew sugarcane. They've not assessed that second tranche of loan, which was approved by Parliament of Ghana. And only to tell us that because we did not develop the canes, that is why they want to import sugar. And they are requesting for a tax waiver so that they will be able to. It's a deception. They only want to deceive the people of Ghana.
Upon an RTI request by Joy News, government has revealed that apart from the $35 million and the additional $24 million facility, government has further pumped in over 52 million Ghana cedis.
In 2019, government indicates that there was an offer by PAC Agrotech to take up a concession instead of outright purchase of the Commander Sugar Factory. The offer was considered the most competitive because the ownership of the factory would be retained by government, whilst PAC Agrotech invests $28 million in the company and pays a $3 million annual concession fee to government for 15 years. That is a total of $45 million. However, there was a delay in concluding negotiations between lawyers of Pack Agrotech and PwC in respect of the conditions precedent for the concession agreement to come into force, citing COVID-19 restrictions. Pack Agrotech couldn't meet the deadline to reach a final determination of all guarantees, and the Ministry of Trade terminated the transaction, and the management and operation of the company was handed over to the board to make a determination on the way forward to revive the company. According to the ministry, to avert further delays, the board took over the revival of the factory and started the process of operationalizing the integrated sugar development project with the support of the ministry and the One District, One Factory initiative. A facility of 46,350,000 Ghana cedis has to date been disbursed by the partnering financial institutions, that is, GCB Bank, CBG Bank, and Prudential Bank, for the comprehensive overhauling and retooling of the factory and the addition of a raw sugar handling system to refine raw sugar. Another facility of 6.2 million Ghana cedis was also disbursed by CBG Bank to cover the purchase of sugarcane and other operational expenses during the test run period.
On the streets of Komenda are thousands of eyes and ears still eagerly waiting for government to do the needful by ensuring that all these monies pumped into the revival of the sugar factory do not go down the drain. Richard Kwejonyako, Joy News, Komenda.
Now in our next story, the exemplary leadership of two police officers who led the renovation of their respective police stations in the Ashanti region has received commendation from residents. Chief Inspectors Richard Boateng and Eric Amwakon led and renovated the Adanse, Akrofom, and Oforikrom police stations under the Obuasi and Menchia divisional commands in the Ashanti region by soliciting funds from individuals, corporate bodies, and supported same with their own resources. The initiative has not only lifted the image of the police and their respective commands, but brought confidence to personnel who until now operated from deplorable environments. Oheming Tewia of our security desk has been peeping at the efforts of the two officers and came through with this report.
The two police officers were introduced to wretched but dilapidated police stations upon their appointments by the Inspector General of Police. Chief Inspector Richard Boateng solicited for funds from individuals in the community to start the renovation just 3 weeks upon assumption of his new role at the Akrofom police station in March 2024. Assemblyman for Akrofom West Electoral Area, James Bedu, says the police station, constructed in 2004 until the intervention of Chief Inspector Boateng, was not fit for purpose.
About 21 years ago, when President Kufuor put up the police station, after commissioning, I didn't see any renovation until now that a new Chief Inspector has come, Chief Inspector Richard Boateng. He took it upon himself to renovate the police station.
So what does the inside of the renovated Adanse Akrofom police station look like? Under the guise of a carpenter's apprentice to work on the police station on the orders of my master, I visited the Akrofom police station to catch a glimpse of the renovated station. I met the hard-working Chief Inspector Boateng, who led me to the female cell and asked that a burglary proof in the window be reinforced. The renovated station has a place of convenience for both inmates and personnel. The floor is tiled and the termite-infested wooden windows and doors have given room to aluminium glass windows and doors. Assemblyman for Akrofom West, James Bedu, is overwhelmed by the facelift at the police station.
It was bad. Even the cells, it wasn't good. And even the CID also told me they will need a mattress at least 4 student mattresses will do, so that it will help them in their health. They sleep on a bare floor if they are arrested.
Chief Inspector Boatin has earned the praise of many residents, including Kwekuba, a carpenter.
I am proud of him for a job well done, given that all these improvements took place during his administration.
There were previous chief inspectors who were in the old states. Maybe at that time, they like it like that. So I commend him for the step that he's taking.
Chief Inspector Eric Amwako, on the other hand, has transformed the Oforikrom police station to a first-class station. Joy News sources say Chief Inspector Amwako, who took over in December 2022, began the renovation drive a few months after taking over. Pothole-riddled floors, which turn muddy at the slightest rains, have given way to pavement blocks, while walls and blocks are painted. The Oforikrom Municipal Assembly, Asante Achim and Asokore Rural Banks, as well as Prudential Bank, responded positively to calls from Chief Inspector Amwako. The station now has enough air conditioners, furniture for both personnel and visitors, and modern signage. Assemblyman for Oforikrom West, Richard Ofori, has witnessed developments at the police station.
The state here was really terrible. Really, really terrible. As you can see, this place looking nice and other stuff. They did that themselves. Here was, when it rains, you can't even step here. Even where we are having the interview now, when it rains, you can't stand here. But look at the way they've done this place marvelously well.
According to him, the Oforikrom Municipal Assembly will soon reward Chief Inspector Amwako for his leadership qualities.
At first, there were a lot of challenges that these personnel were facing. But when this station officer came, he has drastically changed things. The interaction that he has with people, infrastructure, he's a leader.
The 4 main functions of the police are prevention and detection of crime, arrest and prosecution of offenders, maintenance of law and order, as well as protection of life and property. The conduct of the 2 chief inspectors are worth emulating, but the worth emulating leadership skills of the 2 station officers appear to have gone unnoticed by the police administration. From the Ashanti region for Joy News, Ohimenteria report.
Well, from that yeoman's job done by some police officers, let's talk education now. As the Director General of the Ghana Education Service, Dr. Eric Nkansa, has entreated young people transitioning into the senior high school level to embrace STEM-related courses to partake in the rapid technological advances taking place across the world. Dr. Nkansa, who was speaking at the 67th Speech and Prize-Giving Day celebration of the Red Church School, said government's efforts to improve the study of science, technology, engineering, and mathematics could only be achieved if students embraced those programs.
The 67th Speech and Prize-Giving Day celebration was used to honor deserving teachers and learners of the school for distinguishing themselves in relevant fields of social and academic endeavors. The day was also used to highlight some successes and achievements chalked by the school over the academic year. Delivering his address, Director General of the Ghana Education Service, Dr. Eric Nkansa, admonished the learners to embrace the study of STEM courses.
Madam Chair, the Ghana Education Service, working through the Ministry of Education under the leadership of Honorable Dr. Elseya Dichum, is prioritizing STEM education as it plays a pivotal role in shaping the future of our society. STEM, which stands for science, technology, engineering, and mathematics, is not just a subject area, but a gateway to innovation, progress, and problem solving. The ministry through GES has operationalized STEM senior high schools. So far, 7 of them have been operationalized and expanded and retooled science laboratories across existing senior high schools. The GES has also operationalized the first out of the 20 STEM centers. One is right here at Accra High School, with the rest at various stages of completion.
Headmistress of the school, Nana Acheampong Badasu, pledged to continuously improve teaching and learning in the school.
The beneficiary institutions were the Children's Department of the Accra Regional Hospital, RIDGE, the Senior Correctional Center, Accra, and the Accra Rehabilitation Center. We also had our carol service on 19th December 2023 under the theme, A Time to Adore the Messiah and Replicate His Kindness. And as usual, it took the form of a festival of 9 lessons and carols. Lessons were read by learners, staff, and parents, and carols were sung by all. We had our Easter service on Wednesday, 27th March 2024.
The 67th Speech and Prize Giving Day was themed the contributions of co-curricular activities to academic achievement.
Well, let's get right down to it, as government has announced some key revisions to the country's macroeconomic fiscal targets for 2024. Now, presenting the mid-year budget in Parliament, Finance Minister Dr. Mohamed Amin Adam said that the overall real GDP growth rate had been revised upwards from 2.8% to 3.1%. He stated that government had decided to maintain the end-of-year inflationary target unchanged at 15%. Here is Dr. Amin Adam presenting the mid-year budget.
It has become necessary to revise the 2024 macroeconomic framework due to recent domestic and global economic developments, including the impact of the debt restructuring. Mr. Speaker, key revisions to the macro fiscal targets for 2024 include overall real GDP growth rate revised upwards from 2.8% to 3.1%. Non-oil real GDP growth rate is revised upwards from 2.1% to 2.8%. Growth in GDP deflator scaled down from 20.2% to 17.5%. Nominal overall GDP has been revised from 1.050 billion Ghana cedis, that is 1 trillion Ghana cedis, to 1,020.
Well, that's how we end our business update and cap off the AM news for this morning. But stay with us. Up next, both guests joining us for the news review. I'll be introducing them right after the break. Welcome to the news review belt of the AM show. Time now for us to get into the papers. But before we do that, you know that Endpoint Homeopathic Clinic helps us bring you this segment every weekday. What are they offering you? If you're a man, prostate screening for free. If you're a woman, fertility screening for free. And here's where you can locate them. Here in Accra, Spintex opposite the Shell signboard. There's Kumasi Kronoma Way here behind the Angel Educational Complex. There's Takrade Anaji State Tema Committee 22. Techiman Hanswa and Acheampong and Zuma. If you'd like to call them, the numbers are 0244 867 068 or 0274 234 321. Endpoint Homeopathic Clinic, the end to chronic disease. But just the start of the news review, I am pleased to introduce to you, ladies and gentlemen, our guests. First, Dr. Kwame Asante. He is a political scientist and head of the Center for European Studies at the University of Ghana. He joins the conversation. We also have Kojo Poku, an energy analyst, joining the conversation. He is also head of the Energy Committee or Energy Manifesto Group of Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia, the Vice President of the Republic of Ghana. Both of them join us for a conversation. Gentlemen, good morning.
Good morning, Ben. How are you?
I am well. It's good to have you join the conversation. I want to start very quickly by, Kojo, we don't have that much time today, so I'm going to go straight into it. I want to start briefly by taking your thoughts on any pertinent matters. It could be the media budget review from yesterday or other surrounding matters. I'll start with you, Dr. Asante.
Yes, Ben. Thanks for pronouncing the name correctly. Yes.
Thank you.
I will look at the Fitch Solution report about the fact that the NDC, according to their report, is likely to win the election and the rest of them. When we are getting into elections like this, surveys will come. It gives, obviously, one party will be seen in the report having won the election and the rest of them. But what is my advice is that political parties should not discount such reports. All that you do is you look at them and then you work very hard so as to make your party better. This is a research that they've done, and it costs a lot to undertake research. So when somebody does something like this, an institution like this, you don't discount them. You work with it. Even if they're saying you are winning, you continue to work and make sure that at the end of the day, you will get victory. The report says that, look, you are not winning. You need to what? Take it, work on, and then turn your fortunes around to make things better. It tells you that there's a lot, but that takes us to what? Some of the issues that the report turned out. One, that the election will be fought based on the economy. This has been the issue over the years, and it's not going to change. So I expect the political actors, particularly NDC, MPP, and the rest of them, to make themselves available to answer the hard economic questions, the hard unemployment questions, and the rest of them. We want the campaign to be civil, decorous, and without any insult. I have said that anybody who begin to insult or attack, it means you lack argument. If you have argument, bring it forward, and we are going to interrogate, and we're going to be part of it.
Thank you very much, Doc, for sharing those thoughts. Let me come to Kojo Poku. Your quick thoughts?
Well, Ben, greetings from where I was trying to greet you and you cut me off. I mean, that's all.
My apologies. Because of time, I'm trying to make everything snip.
Look, my big brother talks about Fitch report. Let us all discount these fake polls for what is the contempt they deserve. I mean, why, as I speak to you, we've been in all the constituencies and we are on the ground campaigning. The other side is not. And we know what the ground is telling us. On the 7th of December, the good people of Ghana will see the good work and the hard work that Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia is doing. I don't want these echo chamber discussions that people are having in Accra. They should move out of Accra and come to the ground as we are in Accra, as we are on the ground, and they would see what the ground is telling them. Let me not spend time on that. I'm sure as we discuss the good and the improvement on the economy during the budget, some of these things that I want to talk about will come. But the most important thing for me is the good, innovative policy that Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia is coming up with, and I'm sure it's been the topic of debate with these cell phones, where he has said, because we are going to have a good credit system in Ghana, people can now get their cell phones. Network providers will give phones to customers, and they'll pay over time. And people are making a mockery of it on social media. Look, it is people who don't think are the people who can't achieve. And the MPP team and the Dr. Bawumia campaign.
Kojo Poku, my apologies. I'll make up for the time I'm going to take from here. Can you say what you're saying without suggesting that those who disagree with you don't think?
No, because when people are making a mockery, I'm saying that people who are making a mockery of the suggestion are the people who are not thinking. I'm not saying everybody is not thinking. But if somebody comes out and say that, look, I'm going to basically bring an innovation that will make people buy phones and pay over time. And people are saying that, oh, he's saying that you are going to buy a phone and pay over 500 years. I mean, where does that come from? Somebody makes a suggestion that you can pay 1 cedi a month. Okay, it's possible that there are some phones that cost very cheap and you can pay 1 cedi a month. But let's not make mockery of people's innovative ideas. That's the point I'm trying to make.
All right, thank you very much. One cedi though, even abroad, how much would you pay? Likely $9.99, 5 something for some of these products. What kinds of phones are they? But anyway, I'm going to leave this.
You seem to have doubt, so go ahead.
Yes, time. But let me just make this point. And I think it's always a problem for me the way political parties do this. In the past, when institutions from the UK and others, including Fitch, have given their reports about what they think. Of course, it's a survey, what they think. I think it's been appreciated when it leans this way. But now it's what? Wishy-washy? Anyway, let's get into the papers.
The same report that made Hillary Clinton lose elections, that same kind of survey, that
the Daily Guide,
go to Michigan and Pennsylvania.
The Daily Guide this morning. Nana commissions 320 police housing unit. Supreme Court affirms Bank of Ghana revocation of unique credit license. 9.9 billion Ghana cedis spent on free SHS as economy rebounds. NDC destroys posters of Adenta NPP candidate. Otumfuo chats with King Charles, and Tor will work again. Crapper assures. You know, sometimes when I read headlines from some papers, and I read just headlines generally, I begin to ask myself whether we are just, okay, I can't use that word, but whether we are just gullible as a people or whether we really want to hold the feet of our leaders to the fire of accountability. Anyway, let me get into the stories. My thoughts are mine and mine alone. You can also share yours. So the Minister of Finance, Dr. Mohamed Amin Adam, has disclosed that a total of over 9.9 billion Ghana cedis has been spent on the free SHS program. According to him, the impact of the program is evident, with the initiative having benefited a cumulative total of 5.7 million young people, many of whom may not have had this opportunity. It goes on and on. It talks about the capitation grant. The finance minister noting that to ease the financial burden on parents and guardians of public basis school pupils, the government disbursed about 38 million Ghana cedis as capitation grant for the first half of 2024 to ensure schools had adequate resources to provide quality education. He talks about school feeding, which has had its own problems, myriad problems. He talks about LEAP as well. Then there is Nana Commission's 320 police housing units. So President Akufo-Addo has commissioned 320 new housing units for the Ghana Police Service at the Accra Police Depot in Tesano. This milestone, which is a testament to the government's dedication to improving living conditions for security personnel, marks a pivotal step in bolstering national security and safety. So that is that. Let me see whether I want to do this story on Tor because it's one that really interests me. If you notice at the Mahama confab at Kempinski, my question, the first one was based on Tor. So the Minister of State for the Ministry of Energy, Herbert Crapper, has given the strongest assurance that government would ensure that the Tema oil refinery concluded the process of securing a strategic partner within the next 90 days for it to commence full operations. He indicated that the government was committed to ensuring that the state refinery was revamped to refine products to provide both the local and international markets and generate revenue for the state through the provision of, quote, capital, technology, and efficiency. Like I said, this country. Anyway, and also on page 6, that's the last one I'll do, so you can share your thoughts on them. NDC destroys posters of Adenta MPP candidate. A recent incident in the Adenta constituency has raised concern about political sabotage and intimidation. Some unknown persons believed to be supporters of the incumbent NDC, yet you splash on the front page of the paper, NDC, not believed to be NDC. NDC Member of Parliament and be supporters of the incumbent National Democratic Congress Member of Parliament Mohammed Adamu Ramadan are alleged to have been behind the destruction of the campaign posters and billboards belonging to Akosia Asame Nukosi, the New Patriotic Party's parliamentary candidate. I'll throw that. I want you to start from there, Dr. Asa Asante, because the NDC just a few days ago, and I even interacted with Joyce Bawa Mokhtari, also mentioned how some of theirs had been, in fact, one had been pulled down completely, another had been blocked, others had been defaced ahead of the political campaign What does this mean? And then you can get into the other stories. Dr. Asah-Asante.
Yes, I think if what you are reading is anything to go by, I don't think it's a good thing, because one of the ingredients for free and fair election is that there must be an equal playing field for everybody to participate. And so one means by which political parties participate in election is they file their posters, they campaign and all that. So you have no business to destroy anybody's poster. So that should cease. And I believe that those who engage in that, as soon as we lay hands on them, we hand them over to the police so that we ensure sanity. And this thing costs a lot of money. So we don't expect any human being to go near it. The only thing you can do about it is just go and read. If you are not interested in reading the poster, shy away from the poster. By destroying it, it doesn't make sense to me at all. People should desist for them. And I will urge the political parties also to be vigilant about that and then apprehend those who are cooperating and hand them over to the police.
All right. Any reflections on the other stories? TOR.
Yes.
And then
TOR.
The budget review.
Unfortunate. It is unfortunate that TOR is where it is. If you look at that facility and the benefits that it gives to the country, I'm not sure we will be able to handle it the way we have handled it. Very unfortunately, but better late than never. I want to believe that the government will walk the talk and then make sure that they bring TOR to its original status and be able to help contribute its quota to this economy. We need it so much. It's a very valuable facility that we can't allow it to rot. That about that. Let me move on to free SHS. It is good that the government has spent so much in such a program. There is no doubt that the program is very good, but it has produced a lot of results. That as a teacher in the university, I've seen a lot of products from that. But the lingering challenges, I want government to be able to fix them. Issue of school feeding. I don't understand why it should be a problem where backyard gardens can be encouraged and all that. If we are able to,
wait, Doc, are the school farms still in existence?
I'm not sure, but there's one clear way by which you and I have said that government can, take advantage of and then help deal with these problems. When you and I were in secondary schools, we had school farms that produce a number of foodstuff for the dining. And if we apply ourselves very well to this, we should be able to pump in more resources, do that, and then the school can feed itself and generate IGF when they sell to what? The communities, So this shouldn't be a problem for schools at all. We want government to be able to fix some of the challenges such as this and then the rest of them so that this policy, which is a good one, will stay forever. I support it, and I believe that anything that we have to do it very fast to be able to make it work better.
Well, maybe Gen Zs are not supposed to read. You never know. That could be another bit in there. But I don't know whether you want to touch on Nana commissioning 320 police housing units. I've heard the IG laud him. You can quickly talk about that, and I'll get to Kojo.
That is another beautiful project. We have, it's a good project government is undertaking. I support it. But my caution is that people who are going to use this should maintain it. This country, the culture of maintenance is a problem. So things that we put our resources in, we want to ensure value for money. Let us cultivate a habit of what? Maintaining it by all higher standards. That is what is supposed to be. On that score, then we'll be able to assure ourselves that we are getting value for money. But for me, it's a good project and that we should maintain it.
There are many things I'll, with my tongue, lash the president on, but on this, I cannot but doff my hat to him for it. I remember about a year and a half ago, some police officers sent me in private It had rained, and if you see the situation they were in, some of them, water had taken over everything, including electricals and everything. So these things, definitely positives, and we salute the president for that. Kojo Poku.
Well, thank you, Ben. Look, the free senior high school has been a God-brought intervention. It's worked so well that the naysayers are now coming in and with their chest up trying to take credit for introducing free senior high school, which all Ghanaians know that is not true. Look, the good thing that we are not even talking about is how free senior high school has helped the girl child. Before 2017, out of every 100 boys, you will get about 68 females going to senior high school. Today, out of every 100, you get 108 girls going to senior high school. So it's actually really helped the girl child to go to school. A good thing again is that if you look at the enrollment and the regions that benefit a lot from these enrollment is the northern, 5 northern regions. They top the enrollment now into secondary schools. So look, overwhelmingly, the country has spoken, and everybody, if you see the enthusiasm of the kids and the young ones want to get involved in these programs and activities that we are doing, it tells you that the free senior high school has worked well, and every bit of the money spent is worth it. Yes, there are challenges with the feeding and all that, and Dr. Baumia has promised to fix those things. Let me go to TOR. Look, it's unfortunate that whenever government has remedy for a problem, you get some of my brothers in civil society, there were unions at TOR that were fighting the Torenco transaction, citing that there were other competing transactions that were not being given the same attention. The Torenco people withdrew their transaction, and that's it. There's nothing. So there is a tendency for people to fight every initiative and every policy government was to put on.
Somehow government could do what has happened in Central together with the Chinese, but we can't do it for TOR, right?
No, government has not done anything in Central. All government did was under one district, one factory.
That's exactly what I'm talking about.
Yes, but no private. Have you heard any private sector person coming in to say that they want to basically do one district, one factory with TOR? Government is the 100% shareholder of TOR. Central is a private investment. So when you say that we've done something with Central, we can't do for TOR, what does that mean?
Was there equipment belonging to TOR that was being used by Central or loaned to Central for some reasons?
And this was done by the workers, the very workers who are at TOR today, destabilizing and objecting.
And this was done under the supervision of a certain government, right? Which was supposed to know better.
The government has always worked hard through the minister, through the board, to introduce transaction advisors, to introduce companies to work at TOR. The union, some union, at all has always fought these things because the workers know why they are doing that. As you clearly said, they are taking equipment from TOR to Central. And this is on the blind side of management. And some of us have talked about it. But the point I'm making is that, look, there is a new attempt to find partnership for TOR. There has been a short list of companies that are supposed to come in. We are going to look at the companies that have been shortlisted, and we are going to select the appropriate company to basically partner TOR. And this time around, we want to see which union members that will come out to make the noise.
I don't know whether you watched. I'm just saying this for you, gentlemen. In the course of the news, we spoke about Comenda and the promises made and how we have even expended another, 52 million Ghana cedis in addition to everything else, yet nothing to show. My simple take, Commander and TOR, no difference. Go ahead, Kojo.
Well, I don't know about Commander Ben. I'm talking about TOR, and I think you should let me down.
Yeah, it's my analogy, not yours. Go ahead.
The Adenta seat is going to be won. My sister Posey is working so hard, and we will win back the Adenta seat. It doesn't matter if they take out all the posters, they take out all the billboards. There's nothing they can do with the wave of change in Adenta. My sister Akosia Menu is going to win that seat, and with the help of his grassroots support, the seat is coming back home. So I think that, look, these things are unfortunate when people are taking down posters and billboards. It has no place in politics. We should condemn it on both sides. If anybody is doing it on the MPP side, we should condemn it. On the NDC side, it should be condemned. Thank you.
And indeed, they are condemnable on both sides. I was just reiterating that, interestingly, for the sake of our politics, just a few days ago, you had the NDC crying that in the Tema area, and supposedly supported by the TMA, as someone working with within the TMA. So it's going to be a legal case. And now on the other side, I'm just saying, To ensure fairness, peace. Why can't we just avoid these things like pulling down? I mean, if the person has paid, put the thing up. Why do we have to do these things? It doesn't matter whose ox is what.
I have a challenge when TMA does an action and is blamed on the MPP. It's got nothing to do with the MPP.
It is not TMA. I said someone working with the TMA.
No,
I didn't say TMA.
The story says TMA. The story that came out was they said TMA.
It is a member of the MPP.
Down billboards and they blame the MPP.
Story says member of the MPP. Let's get it right. Member of the MPP. But let's get into other stories very quickly. The New Finder newspaper, 30 billion Ghana cedis disbursed in 6 months. Then we've done some of these other stories, so I'll not go there. Media budget uninspiring, scrap taxes, Atuforsen says so. Next government faces significant challenges from 2026. That's according to Setekwe. I would even say from 2025, right after any government takes over. I don't know. and honestly, you have to, in a way, pity whoever will take over the reins of Ghana from 2025. It's not going to be an easy job. And then road tolls, property tax to be reintroduced in 2025. That's according to Dr. Amin. So let me start from the start, go very quickly. Minority leader Dr. Cassio Atuforsen has criticized the 2024 media budget, describing it as uninspiring and hopeless. Reacting to the media budget review, he expressed his concerns to the media, urging Ghanaians to brace for more hardship. The Ejumako Enyan Esia Member of Parliament argued that the government missed an opportunity to provide relief by abolishing certain taxes which could have cushioned Ghanaians and businesses alike. He goes on to highlight the unemployment rate and the unbearable cost of living as key issues facing the country. It goes on and on. You can grab details from that newspaper. Then on page 4, road tolls, property tax to be reintroduced in 2025. That's according to the finance minister. And he has announced this. The minister made this announcement during the media budget review. He says the integrated property tax system aims to synthesize data from ministries, departments and agencies, lands valuation, the Electricity Company of Ghana, and other relevant government agencies to create a comprehensive digital property record database. Then there are the road tolls as well. Like we had in our news today, some people asking, okay, bring in the road tolls back, not a problem, but just don't increase them. We saw a list of likely changes from some time in the past. And some are also asking, what are these road tolls used for? Finally, and this is the last story I will do as we get ready to wrap the conversation. Next government faces significant challenges from 2026. Former Finance Minister Setekwe has expressed concerns about the significant challenges the next administration will face starting in 2026 when the suspension of debt payments will end. He believes that Ghana has postponed problems that will only worsen in the future. He cautioned against repeating past mistakes such as hiding debt or mismanaging energy projects and emphasized the need for honest reflection and accountability. That's where I'm going to end. You can pick and choose one, maximum 2 stories to reflect on. I'll start with you, Kojo Poku.
Well, hiding debt, Setakwe, he knows all about that, doesn't he? When he was a finance minister, that was his modus operandi, hiding debt. They had 2 systems of debt that they had.
Before you go on, we have a little additional time, so you can take more time if you need it to reflect on.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you very much. Like I said, he will know all about hiding debt because that was his modus operandi when he was finance minister. Look, the good thing is that we are rebounding as a country. From the budget that was read yesterday, it is good news for every Ghanaian. The microeconomics, everything is pointing in the right direction. I'm surprised when Honorable Atuforsen will talk about scrapping of taxes. When a finance minister normally is coming to read the media budget, we are all scared because normally they come for new requests. They come to now look for more money based on what they have read in November. They think that, look, things didn't go so well, so I'm going to ask for new money. This budget, the minister said that I'm not asking for new money. There's no new appropriation. In fact, because we've been able to have
that is not a novelty, Kojo. Plus, both members of the majority and minority have said that Ghanaians will not even tolerate that. So don't make this appear to be some magic being done.
There were times that we will not tolerate it, and some government did it. So that one is neither here nor here, neither here nor there. The point I'm making is that the government, right? He has done well, living within budget. And the good news is that by end of year, if we go in the same trajectory, we'll have a 0.5% of GDP surplus, which is a good thing. right? Let's not belittle everything that is achieved in some of these things. Government was having challenges balancing its budget. In 2024, if all goes well, according to our honorable and well-spoken Minister of Finance, we will, for once in a very long time, have a budget surplus of 0.5% of GDP, which is a good thing. Let's applaud it. When people say that it is going to be a hard year going forward, the hard year is all around us. Price change, everything that is happening around the world affects Ghana. Let's not always look at Ghana as an island. And in fact, going forward, I want every Ghanaian to understand that the government is doing its best. The toll and the toll situation, let me explain quickly and remind Ghanaians why the tolls are coming back. You remember that the tolls were abolished and replaced with e-levy. I'm sure everybody remembers that. The e-levy, Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia has said that when he's president, he will abolish the e-levy. So the toll has to come back. And the toll is not coming back in its old form. There's a new framework under which the toll is going to come. There is going to be a revamp of private-public partnership, PPP. We are going to build roads. Private sector is going to build roads, and the toll collected for those roads to be paid back to the private sector. So we are not going to do the same thing as where the toll roads collection was put in the consolidated fund. No, the public-private partnership that's going to be put in place, those tolls that are going to be introduced. And you're not going to see the toll booths again. Okay, this is a new innovation as done in other worlds. The tolls are electronic. You buy, you go through, it reads. So we are not going to do the toll booths. We are not going to do all the things that was there. There's a new framework that is going to be introduced. The most important thing is that in the next administration, which God willing will be led by Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia, he wants to reduce our expenditure by 30 billion Ghana cedis, about 3% of GDP. And that means that 30 billion has to be done by the private sector. And that is why the toll, if you see in the budget, it said it will be done in 2025, when the new framework is put in place, and basically we'll be able to charter a new path for the development of Ghana.
I'll just humbly say, as I move on to Dr. Asante, if we knew how to save $30 billion, I'm sure we'd be doing it by now. Dr. Asante,
well,
over
when
to
the
you.
new president
Dr.
is president,
Asante, over to you.
Yes.
You have the floor, Dr. Asante.
Ben, it's not fair. Don't
Dr.
say these
Asante,
things
please go ahead.
Yes, you can't do
that. If you look at the road toll that the government want to bring back, I ask myself, why did they take it off in the first place?
No one knows. I've explained to you why they took it off. I've explained why they took it off. Why
please. Yes. You think I don't have the right to ask a question? You think so?
No, but I
please. Kojo, when you spoke, when you were speaking, he didn't interject. I interjected. He didn't interject you. Allow him to make his point.
I did not. And that it was not planned properly, because the little things, money we're getting from that facility, was, blown away. But this is something that was helping us one way or the other. So yes, now that the government has reflected upon it, decided to improve it better. But next time, when you put a public policy in place, there's a proper way of evaluating it. And then if you want to take it off, then you have gone through all the process. You realize that it was just a knee-jerk reaction, and it was not the best. I am happy they are bringing it back, and they're going to create employment for people and all that. I was also surprised that property tax scheme that they introduced, a beautiful one. I was in my house, they came and then took pictures, we put all our documents in, and then we paid. And then only to find that they said the people who are not, that contract have been abrogated and all that. I thought that was a beautiful scheme, that yes, they will come to your home, take all the statistics, your neighbors and all that. And it was generating a lot of resources. For me as a political scientist, when you are generating resources, I am happy with it, because it's part of what the state capacity, the ability of the state to raise revenue, to run its own affairs. But when all that we are worried about is some of these things, the way it is managed, how the resources are used. Because yes, much as you want to take, we want to also see how you utilize those resources. So I'm happy they are bringing it back. It will bring a lot of resources to the state so that the state can use it for developmental purposes. I think that's a good one.
Okay. Gentlemen, thank you so much for your reflections. The other papers, the Ghanaian publisher, talking about some of what we've seen. Also, Roman Catholic Church honors on Honorable Collins in team. And cervical cancer can be eliminated if prioritized. Those are some stories. And then the Custodian newspaper, also regurgitating some of what we've already seen. But it also says government pays 12 billion Ghana cedis to bond holders. And those are some of the stories. Final words, gentlemen. Not more than 30 seconds. We have to go. Kojo Poku, I'll start with you.
Well, Ben, the reason I interjected is that when somebody has given an answer to a question, there's no point answering that question again. I said, and everybody remember, that the reason the tolls were taken away, it was because of the introduction of the e-levy. So if somebody asks that, they don't know why the tolls were taken away. I've already told you why it was taken away, and it became a matter of national debate that the tolls were being taken away.
Kojo, I think I recall a point where you shared with me, whether on air or otherwise, and you can correct me if memory does not serve, that you did not think that the mere fact that we had the e-levy meant that we should scrap the road tolls. And I could fish for it. Are you standing by that?
I agree. No, I agree. But I'm just saying, Ben, I am saying that, I, Kojo Poku, am pro-tax, right? So I agree with you, and I shared that with you, and I published it, that we shouldn't have scrapped the tolls. We shouldn't have, right? But the reasoning that was given at the time by the finance minister, Ken Ofori-Atta, was that because we're introducing the e-levy, that is why we are scrapping the toll. I disagreed with that. I'm not saying I agree with it, but I'm saying that we should all put it in context why it is being brought back, that the e-levy is being scrapped, so it's not extra tax. User taxes are always good because it goes and it's directed.
All right, thank you. Doc, final words, 30 seconds.
Ben, I want Mr. Poku to know that when I have my opinion, I have the right to say it. So I'm posing a question because the reason he is talking about, I also did listen, which the minister said that based on what? The environment. They were keeping the place so dirty and all that. You recall that. That also is what I also know. So, and I speak for myself, right? All that I'm saying that, yes, the things that government promised to do, we want to see government is able to do them. And at the end of the day, make sure that we have value for money. This country, a lot of times we waste resources and then go around looking for resources to come and build what? The little that we have, let's manage it well and use it to run our own affairs. That is all that I can say.
Gentlemen, we're so grateful that you took the time to join us this morning. Dr. Kwame Asante is a political scientist. He is also head of the Center for European Studies at the University of Ghana. Kojo Poku is an energy analyst. He also heads the manifesto committee of the Dr. Bawumia campaign in terms of energy-related issues. Gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us. Happy birthday.
Thank you, Ben.
Let's celebrate some people now, just one person. Happy birthday to Mrs. Linda Asabia Fojo. Mrs. Linda Asabia Fojo, CEO of Cakes and Cookies Plus. Grow in leaps and bounds and stand tall as a woman of substance in your generation. Age gracefully. It's from your love, Kwejo Fojo, and the children. Our very own Listerwell, Kwejo Fojo. He says, we love you, from he himself and the kids. There's also, I had to acknowledge, Alitha Gua, you say, good morning, love watching, greetings from Liberia. I've noticed the trend of a number of you watching from Liberia. I could say my third country. We celebrate you. Thank you for watching. Before we get into sports, Endpoint Homeopathic Clinic helps us bring you this segment every weekday morning. And they are offering you prostate screening for free if you're a man, fertility screening for free if you're a woman. Just reach out to them at any of their branches. Accra Spintex, opposite the Shell signboard, Kumasi, Kronumabwe here, behind the Angel Educational Complex. There's Takrady Anaji State, Tema Committee 22, Techiman Hanswa, and Esiaman Zima. You can call them on 0244 867 068 or 0274 234 321. Endpoint Homeopathic Clinic, the end to chronic disease. Sports is up next. Do stay for that.
Good morning. It's time for sports on the AM show. My name is Haruna Mubarak. We start with a big story where Real Tamale United have been sanctioned with 100,000 Ghana cedis fine for fielding unregistered players in the 2023-24 Ghana Premier League game against Dreams FC. The Northern-based club fielded an unregistered team in their penultimate game against the Still Believe Lads in Dewu, where they lost 8-1. The registered players boycotted the clash over unpaid salaries and bonuses for 6 months. In addition to the penalty, club officials who led the team for the Dreams encounter have been banned for 12 months with immediate effect. They include coach Idi Al-Hassan, team doctor Abdul Samed Idrisu, team manager Tanko Gentuma, equipment officer Abdul Ghaffar Salifu, and goalkeepers trainer Sylvester Yao. It is unclear if RTU will be ready for the Division 1 League next season after being relegated, as most of their players have left for other clubs, including captain Baba Kushibo, who signed for Samatex. Let's go to the central region now, where the steel structure of the Cape Coast Sports Stadium is showing traces of rust. The 15,000 capacity stadium, built in 2016, has suffered from a lack of proper maintenance since its inception. My colleague Nathaniel Atto has more in this report.
Hello everyone. So I find myself here in Cape Coast, and this route takes you to the University of Cape Coast College of Health and Allied Sciences, set up by Professor Amonu Kofu. Well, that's on the side, but what is important is that it shares space, or it's very close to the Cape Coast Stadium. And one of the things I've noticed is that the main frame of the stadium is gradually getting rusted. Now, if you're trying to do a calculation of the distance between this particular location and the sea or the beachfront, it should be a minimum of 4.5 kilometers or maybe 5 or 6 kilometers. But the truth is, this is what is happening to the space. So the question is, what are we doing in terms of making sure that this facility is maintained properly? Remember, our newest baby in the space of sports infrastructure is the University of Ghana Stadium. And these are one of the reasons why we're having those conversations about maintenance. So let's just get a little closer and have a look at the detail. So there it is. There it is. Here we go. And there it is. There's some amount of rust here. And the question is, how are we going to get this fixed? And how are we going to ensure that we prevent what could be a very sorry sight sometime to come? So I'm just asking a very simple question. How do we get this done? How do we make sure that we resolve this in the shortest possible time? I'm not going to ask anybody any questions. I'm not going to anyone. It's just a very simple question. How do we make sure that this doesn't become a sorry sight? This is a very simple notice to anybody who's been tasked with the responsibility of making sure that things like these are fixed. Let's see what happens.
The Ghana Boxing Professional League has received a major boost, with Blochem Industries agreeing to become the headline sponsors of the championship. The partnership will see Bell 7-Star Energy Drink become headliners of the league for its 3rd season. Joy Sports, my colleague, of course, Lawrence Baidu, was at the ceremony and filed this report.
The Ghana Boxing Authority's search for a headline sponsor for the league came to an end ahead of the start of the 3rd season. Blochem Industries products, the Bell 7-Star Energy Drink, will now headline the competition for an undisclosed number of years. The announcement took place at the Bukom Boxing Arena on Saturday. Bell 7 Star comes in as a replacement for the Laxi Paints, who were headline sponsors in the opening season of the championship.
The energy of the crowd, the energy of the passion that we feel from the locals who troop the arena all the time to support their favorite boxers from the gyms, that is exactly what has motivated us. So we want to be part of them. We want to support them. We want to boost the economy of boxing in Ghana. If they are passionate about this, obviously they have an opportunity to excel. And if they have an opportunity to excel, they give themselves an opportunity to be on international platforms and showcase what they have. And so the energy within the boxing space is what has invited us as Bell 7 Star to partner with GBA so that we can have the Bell 7 Star Professional Boxing League.
Magnus also revealed the benefits Bell 7 Star would look to bring to the league in the upcoming season.
The added benefit obviously has to do with the plethora of our drinks. We have a portfolio that refreshes. We have water, which is the Belacqua energy, Belacqua mineral water. We have Bell beverages, lots and lots of assorted soft drinks. We have energy drinks, and even we have hard drinks. And we'll be serving them to the fans on the night. Every night that they are here, we'll give them energy. We'll sample a few people. We will visit the gyms. We will give products to the boxers. We'll give them both our water and our drinks, and always to keep them refreshed. You know, so that is what is unique this time. It's constant support week in, week out.
President of the Ghana Boxing Authority, Abraham Kutei-Nikwe, is thrilled with the decision of Blokem to extend its support to the sports.
For 7 Star coming on board, we are very happy, and we know we are going to build on this relationship. We know next year they will still be with us because we will continue the league. As we all know, this league have never happened anywhere in the world. It's just this year that the Nigerians wanted to also start their league, but we started it first. We've done the season 1 and the season 2, and this is the 3rd season that we are doing now.
The league was officially launched after the unveiling of the new partnership, as there was a face-off between two of the competing boxers in the professional league.
Energy drink boxing league now.
Now, the Environmental Protection Agency has called on the sports community to leverage their platform to help promote practices that will safeguard the environment for sustainable development. They emphasize the need for public support to help the agency in safeguarding the environment for future generations. There's more in this report.
Established in 1974, the Environmental Protection Agency has been dedicated to improving, conserving and promoting Ghana's environment. As part of its 50th anniversary celebrations, the agency held a sporting competition among its staff and other stakeholders at the Wembley Plus Sports Complex in Accra.
As part of environmental sustainability, we all know that public health, per our definition of environment, is part of environment. So we thought it's proper to invite some of our sister institutions to come and celebrate the 50th by playing games. One of the key activities is the football game, which is between the Ministry of Environment, Science, Technology and Innovation, our sector ministry, the Ministry of Energy, and then some other regional offices, EPA regional offices, are also going to join us to play.
Acting Deputy Executive Director of Technical Services, Engineer Acheampong Tete, stressed on the need for the public to support the agency in its efforts to safeguard the environment.
We expect that Ghanaians will support the security of the environment, of safeguarding the environment. Is not the responsibility of one person. it should be a collective responsibility as indicated in the Constitution. So we expect that Ghanaians will rally around the Environmental Protection Agency, support us to ensure that we protect and secure this environment for not only the present generation, but as well as for posterity.
She also called on the sporting community to leverage their platform to promoting best practices that could go a long way in protecting the environment for future generations.
We have a lot of people supporting football, basketball, boxing. So at such places where football is played, it can also be used to create awareness. For example, when football is played at the Accra Sports Stadium, at the end, we should be able to collect all the waste, get it segregated, and then it can be recycled. And so we expect that all the key stakeholders in the sporting fraternity will come together and support EPA to be able to protect the environment.
At the end of the games, Ministry of Energy football team emerged champions of the football competition, defeating EPA headquarters staff in the final on penalties. Some participants expressed their satisfaction with the organization with the hope of it becoming an annual event.
Manchester City manager Pep Guardiola says midfielder Kevin De Bruyne will stay at the club. De Bruyne has been heavily linked with a summer move to Saudi Arabia. He has 1 year left on his contract and said last month he would have to consider an offer from the Saudi Pro League because of the incredible money available. However, Guardiola is unconcerned. De Bruyne helped City to the Premier League title last season, the club's 4th in a row and his 6th in total at the club. And that's how we end the sports segment on the AM show. My name is Haruna Mubarak.
Hi there, folks. You're still watching the AM show on Joy News. My name is Sweetie Abochi, and coming up in our next segment, for over a century now, cocoa has been the main contributor to Ghana's gross foreign exchange reserves. In 2021 alone, the contribution of cocoa to Ghana's gross domestic products, that is the GDP, in real terms, was 3.1 billion Ghana cedis. Currently, cocoa accounts for a significant 15% of Ghana's GDP. In that regard, Ghana is still working to increase the yield to a larger metric tons. James Ashen visited some farms in the western and central regions to further explore some of the impacts of the hand of pollination on these cocoa farms. Here's AM Business for you.
Ghana's cocoa sector is recovering steadily from the triple-headed problem of drought, disease, and aged farms. The challenge meant that in the past couple of years, the second-largest cocoa producer nation in the world had struggled at meeting production target for its premium cocoa bean. The Ghana Cocoa Board, which regulates the sector, introduced earth productivity enhancement programs aimed at resuscitating production levels.
Well, you see, we've been educating farmers, but then anywhere you go, once you mention productivity, ordinary farmers should have not less than 1,000 kilos per hectare. Our farmers were doing 450 kilos per hectare, which is very low. Now we've been able to bring them to 600 kilos per hectare, kilograms per hectare. We want to move them beyond 1,500, you know. That's 1.5 tons. That's what we are aiming at. Of course, we have a number of farmers who are making more than 1.5 tons. Some are even doing about 2.5 tons per hectare, which is very good. But the generality is that many of our farmers are still not, catching up. So debts like this are the opportune time. We use it as an opportunity to drum home some of the interventions that our extension officers are impacting onto the farmers.
Annual cocoa beans output has been falling from a historic high of 1 million metric tons in the 2010-2011 crop year to an average of 800,000 metric tons currently. Under the PEP, such initiatives as cocoa farm rehabilitation, mass spraying, hand pollination, mass pruning, fertilizer application, irrigation and continuous farmer education on good agronomic practices are being carried out in all 7 cocoa growing regions. A cocoa board extension coordinator in the central region said the hand-pollinated farms are now producing between 25 to 30 bags per acre.
Initially, it's about the adoption of the new programs that Cocoa Board normally used to establish. Normally, when you are trying to establish something, you have early adopters and also there are some late adopters. So the people who are able to adopt it early, unless they already see the results, they don't normally adopt it fast. That is a major challenge. That is the adoption process. It's a very big challenge. And also, farmers do sometimes politicize the cocoa farming system. When a new government comes, when you are giving some information to them, they think you are linked to a certain political party, but the cocoa doesn't have a political color. We are working for God information. That is what we are doing. But the farmers, normally when the politicians come, they do their propaganda, blah, 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 blah. They do certain stuff. It is a major challenge. And also the delay of sometimes inputs is also a major contributing factor that causes the problem that we do have with them. Sometimes we will prune our farms, but there will be a delay with respect to foliar fertilizer that used to come. I'm not saying that Cocoa Board is not doing well, they are doing massively well, but sometimes I don't know the processes that the chemicals will go through delays, and when farmers see that the thing has delayed, you promise farmer that open your farm, I'll bring you chemical, and it delays. The following year, you'll be like, no, I won't do it because when you provide the thing, they don't know what can. But this year won't be so good. There has been influx of chemicals when they did their pruning. Even before you do the pruning, the chemicals were available. So as soon as they did it, we give them the chemicals.
The implementation of vest combination therapy for Ghana's declining cocoa yields seem to fund Cocoa Board's confidence in attaining once again and possibly surpassing the 1 million metric tons mark in coming seasons. Hand pollination is the artificial process whereby pollen is collected from flowers on a tree or nearby ones and dropped on the stigma of the flower. This process leads to cross-pollination, increasing the number of flowers pollinated daily, which then result in massive fertilization and cereal development.
Because some of the farms are not pruned. Some are also well pruned. You have those that are not pruned lack the flowers and then the pulse. But those that have been pruned, you can see that the condition of the cocoa farms look good, which is very encouraging. And now that they are applying the liquid fertilizer, they are going to have some flowers and then translate into cereals and then pods.
In one of our visits to the farms in the central region, I met a cocoa farmer, Kwame Alex. According to him, the hand pollination intervention effectively applies the brakes on the cocoa sector's contribution to environmental degradation. He added that, with education intensified, farmers will widely adopt the productivity enhancement interventions, including hand pollination, to earn more with existing farms and also contribute profitably to afforestation by growing more forest trees on farms. The excessive use of weedicide and other agrochemicals as well as indiscriminate bush burning have culminated to wipe away a significant number of the insects called midges. According to Cocoa Board, the extinction of the midges has accounted for an average of 10 to 20% of cocoa flowers being pollinated, while about 80 to 90% of the flowers are aborted, hence nationwide introduction of the hand pollination exercise.
Of course, we have some of the best soils in the world. Then the conditions here are most suitable for cocoa production. Therefore, if we are producing around 0.45 tons per hectare, whereas in other places they are recording 1.5 to 2.5 tons per hectare. It means that we were far, far, far away from the best of practices. So we've set it as an objective to increase the productivity of our farmers. I wouldn't say that all had been, perfect, but I'm satisfied with what we've done so far. the various interventions have caught on very well with a number of our farmers. And from this field trip, we noted from central region through to western south here that many of our farmers are really following the various interventions that we've been introducing. First and foremost, had to do with pruning. Pruning is very, very, very important. And we went around, I can confidently say that almost about 80% of the farms have been pruned.
Statistics from the Cocoa Board indicated that in 2018 and 2019 season, for instance, a total of 16,370.40 acres in the Bono East, and Ahafo region were unpollinated. The human-induced cross-fertilization exercise covered about 17,382 individual farmers in 8 cocoa districts: Gorso, Doma, Bechem, Brekum, Sankori, Techiman, Nkranonkwanta, and Adiesoba. The farmers' yield increased considerably from 3 to 4 bags, that is 64 kilograms per acre, to averagely 15 to 20 bags. For Joy Business, James Eshen.
The amount of land we need for the sugar, the type of sugar we can grow here, all those things were not properly organized. I think the ASR organization, and also the Betumi strategic investor, and also
President Akufo-Addo making a promise to the people of Komenda. That was 5 years ago.
The Can Sugar Factory. Still, some civil works are being done there. Nyampa, by the end of March, it will be completed. And as I say planning, no Indian phone by whatever, by April, production will have begun of the sugar factory.
President Akufo-Addo promising the people of Komenda again when the chiefs of Komenda paid him a visit at the Jubilee House. And yet another promise in 2021. According to Chairman and the people in the Ministry of Trade, arrangements are by the first quarter of 2022, now factory is going to start running again. And another one in 2022. Other promises have been made to the people of Komenda by the president, but each time their hopes are dashed.
Unrefined sugar setup this one.
The setup for the unrefined sugar is too small.
See, I try machinery. I am his machinery.
Deputy Trades and Industry Minister Michael Ochibefi announcing that government will be importing raw sugar to feed the factory.
Now the best we can do is because of America.
Now the best we can do is to import raw or unrefined sugar from South America until we get our own plantation.
The latest is Works and Housing Minister Kojo Oppong-Nkrumah. Mr. Oppong-Nkrumah, who was on a tour in the area, told the chiefs and people government needed their support in order to operationalize the factory.
Processed.
We don't have a plantation to feed the factory. What is left is to get raw sugar or unrefined sugar. When they are bringing it like that, government needs to waive the taxes on it to make it affordable. Our friends on the other side do not want to support it. We are appealing to you to intervene so they can allow us get the unrefined sugar to operationalize the factory.
This hasn't gone down well with the people.
I get angry. The deception by some ministers who come here. I am a carpenter, so when I hear that a minister is coming, I know that he won't come and say anything good. I only have to concentrate on the job I have learned to take care of my family.
Yes, Abado.
I won't say anything that President Akufo-Addo says. He is consistently lying to us. The last 4 years, he deceived, and he deceived us in his second term as well. So does he expect us to vote for him when he failed woefully?
In the market square here, scores of people have gathered in an indistinct chatter. The Commander Sugar Factory is one of the conversations that does not struggle to find place in what folks talk about here.
They have wasted the land. We could have used it to build a mansion. It is better than leaving it in the state in which it is now. People feel that the Commander Sugar building is a deity.
Since 2015, meanwhile, I'm property. Since I'm property, Ghana property. Commander. Now that's why the workers are off. I didn't use for nothing.
Ishmael Kobna talks passionately about the Commander Sugar Factory and how disappointed the community folk are.
Sugar Factory now, when we are sure. They
have not planted any sugarcane here. Our prayer was that they would have grown some sugarcane to feed the factory. What we have observed is that the thought processes of our leaders is questionable.
The disappointment of Francis knows no bounds. Francis and his colleagues here say they have lost hope in government.
There was a now Menjuntum. So, hey,
people are saying that they say they will import raw sugar to feed the factory. What we wanted was for them to support the farmers to plant the required sugarcane. This is really appalling.
The factory, commissioned in 2016 with a $35 million Indian Export-Import Bank loan facility and an additional $24 million to bolster the activities of sugarcane outgrowers, suffered operational challenges and has not produced any sugar for the market. The residents here say they won't forgive government for looking on for such a project to go waste. Heading to the Commander Sugar Factory, I meet Isaac Boama. Isaac says he is MPP but is embarrassed by the turn of event here. He says day in and day out, he gets trolled by his people over the Commander Sugar Factory and want government not to let down the trust of the people.
In a plan, we
don't know what is even happening. We have been looking forward for the factory to be operationalized so we the drivers can get a boost in our work. We are suffering. We are pleading with the president to operationalize the factory. They always troll me about this sugar factory. It is because of Percy, who is contesting the KEEA seat. That's why I am in the NPP.
Former board secretary of the Commander Sugar Factory, Ransford Vani Amwa, believes government posture about the Commander Sugar Factory leaves much to be desired and wants government to fix the mess.
So from 2017, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 24, they still no grew sugarcane. They've not assessed that second tranche of loan which was approved by Parliament of Ghana, and only to tell us that because we did not develop the canes, that is why they want to import sugar and they are requesting for a tax waiver. so that they will be able to. It's a deception. They only want to deceive the people of Ghana.
Upon an RTI request by Joy News, government has revealed that apart from the $35 million and the additional $24 million facility, government has further pumped in over 52 million Ghana cedis.
In 2019, government indicates that there was an offer by PAC Agrotech to take up a concession instead of outright purchase of the Commander Sugar Factory. The offer was considered the most competitive because the ownership of the factory would be retained by government, whilst PAC Agrotech invests $28 million in the company and pays a $3 million annual concession fee to government for 15 years. That is a total of $45 million. However, there was a delay in concluding negotiations between lawyers of PAC Agrotech and PwC in respect of the conditions precedent for the concession agreement to come into force, citing COVID-19 restrictions. PAC Agrotech couldn't meet the deadline to reach a final determination of all guarantees, and the Ministry of Trade terminated the transaction, and the management and operation of the company was handed over to the board to make a determination on the way forward to revive the company. According to the ministry, to avert further delays, the board took over the revival of the factory and started the process of operationalizing the Integrated Sugar Development Project with the support of the ministry and the One District, One Factory initiative. A facility of 46,350,000 Ghana cedis has to date been disbursed by the partnering financial institutions, that is, GCB Bank, CBG Bank, and Prudential Bank, for the comprehensive overhauling and retooling of the factory and the addition of a raw sugar handling system to refine raw sugar. Another facility of 6.2 million Ghana cedis was also disbursed by CBG Bank to cover the purchase of sugarcane and other operational expenses during the test run period.
On the streets of Komenda are thousands of eyes and ears still eagerly waiting for government to do the needful by ensuring that all these monies pumped into the revival of the sugar factory do not go down the drain. Richard Kwejonyako, Joy News, Komenda.
It has become necessary to revise the 2024 macroeconomic framework due to recent domestic and global economic developments, including the impact of the debt restructuring. Mr. Speaker, key revisions to the macro fiscal targets for 2024 include overall real GDP growth rate revised upwards from 2.8% to 3.1%. Non-oil real GDP growth rate is revised upwards from 2.1% to 2.8%. Growth in GDP deflator scaled down from 20.2% to 17.5%. Nominal overall GDP has been revised from 1.050 billion Ghana cedis, that is 1 trillion Ghana cedis, to 1.020 billion Ghana cedis. Non-oil GDP has been revised from 979 billion Ghana cedis to 977 billion Ghana cedis. End-period head inflation remains unchanged at 15%. Primary balance on commitment basis is maintained at a surplus of 0.5%. And gross international reserves, including oil funds and encumbered or pledged assets, to cover no less than 3 months of imports. Mr. Speaker, accounting for these developments, the revision of the 2024 fiscal framework indicates that The primary balance on commitment basis remains unchanged at the targeted surplus of 0.5% of GDP, in line with the IMF-supported PCPEC objectives.
You agree with me that typical of this government, this address was uninspiring, bereft of new ideas, gives no hope, and fails to offer a roadmap for addressing the numerous problems facing the people of Ghana. This media review leaves many people disappointed and uninspired. It gives no hope to the people of Ghana, and that anything this government had said and have done over the last 7.5 years, they've done nothing to reverse the negative trend. In the last 8 years, the Akufo-Addo government have burdened the ordinary Ghanaian and businesses with a number of taxes, making Ghana a high tax regime. These taxes include e-levy, COVID levy, an effective VAT rate of about 22%, a distorted value-added tax regime, a bad-tin tax, a baller tax, in other words, a sanitation levy, a high tax on petroleum product, an emission levy, a high import taxes, burdensome fees and charges across all sectors of the economy, and over 40 new taxes in the last 7.5 years. These burdensome taxes have made Ghana unattractive for investment and foreign direct investment. As a result, many Ghanaian businesses are relocating to Togo and Ivory Coast, among others. In fact, last week I heard of a company moving from Ghana to Benin Republic. Ghana has lost so many jobs opportunities as a result of the relocation of these businesses. This adds to the already high unemployment situation due to the fact that the government has failed to create new jobs.
Those are snippets of what happened yesterday in Parliament as Dr. Mohamed Amin Adam, the finance minister, delivered the mid-year budget review. And you also saw just shortly reactions from the minority saying that this was hopeless by way of a mid-year budget review. But what is the way forward? No new taxes introduced, but from 2025, road tolls to be reintroduced. No additional expenditure. If you look at expenditure on a cash basis and the deficit, you would notice what is happening. A new labor bill and prioritization of road projects. We'll be getting into the salient matters on the mid-year budget review. But let me introduce my guests first, and then I will go through those salient matters with you. Joining us for a conversation, we have Seth Tekpe. He is former finance minister. Dr. Acheampong. He's an economist and political risk analyst. And later, we'll also be joined by GUTE's president, Dr. Joseph Obeng. But let's go first to the salient highlights that we have pinpointed for you, which I'll be running through. And after that, I'll bring in my guests on some of those salient matters. But gentlemen, a very good morning to you. Thank you for joining the conversation.
Good morning.
Good morning to you in the studio. Good morning to your viewers and listeners.
All right, Dr. Acheampong and Seth Tekpe, thank you very much. I'll walk you through some of the salient bits, and then we shall get into the conversation. So, just the very, to start off the conversation, no new taxes introduced. Road tolls, like I mentioned, will be reintroduced in 2025, and a cut in expenditure. Then you look at real GDP for 2023, 2.9%, non-oil 3.3%, and then inflation dropping to 23.2% in December from 54.6% in 2023. In terms of our reserves, and I'm just picking the most salient bits, in terms of our reserves, by June 2024, reserves had increased to $6.9 billion, equivalent to 3.1 months of import cover. And though the finance minister said the cedi had depreciated moderately, marginally, we do know that it had depreciated by 18.6% in the first half of 2024. You look at the overall budget deficit on a commitment basis, you're looking at $17.5 billion Ghana cedis. If you look at the overall budget deficit on a cash basis, you are looking at 27 billion Ghana cedis. Other relevant information to take a look at, we'll be looking at all of them, but then if you actually look at the public debt by end of year 2023, of course, we've stopped making payments on interest. It is 608.4 billion Ghana cedis, 608.4 billion Ghana cedis, and end June 2024, 742 billion Ghana cedis as projected. That's an increment of 133.6 billion in 6 months. Let's bring in our guests now. Setekwe is former finance minister. Your end of parliament described the mid-year budget review as hopeless. Those were some of the words that were used, among others. What is your reaction to the mid-year budget review, at least what you heard?
And permit me to put this in the context also of the fact that we are still in an IMF program. And this is actually the final verdict, of 8 years of the current, government. And I think that should be the point from which we should be evaluating the economy. Let me also mention that if you go to the Ministry of Finance website, we are bereft of information. The last update is June of last year in terms of fiscal data. There's no information on debt. And there is no comparative figures in terms of what we are talking about. We are in an IMF program. And I can't recollect, out of the 17 programs, a delay. First, there was a delay in even releasing the scanty data that comes with a mission when they're in town. There is still a delay in the release of the full IMF report. There's no information on debt on the website and other critical information which are legal, legislative, and should have been tabled in Parliament and also published.
Well, we'll leave the parliamentarians to deal with that. It's legal and it should have been published. But doesn't it suffice when you look at the public? When you look at the public debt, I just want clarity here. He talks about the end of year 2023 figure, 608.4 billion, and end of June 2024, 742 billion Ghana cedis, an increment of 133.6 billion Ghana cedis in 6 months, and there are other projections there. Does that not give us the details we need?
We need to know, and this is where you can go to the scanty information that they are found attached to the board meeting. And if you express this in terms of percentage of GDP, even by 2029, and it has been extended by 1 year, the original projections were 2028. That is what we should be concerned about, because it shows that we'll be just shy of 70% by 2029. That is the projection. And in other periods, it's much higher. This is not going to take us, to the markets, and therefore does it mean that we'll continue to be relying, on treasury bills to finance the economy? We started using treasury bills almost exclusively since May of last year. It's a year now. And since we do not have, all that we've been doing is refinancing for most of that issuances that are being made. It means that we are turning. We have turned the first, bills that were issued into a 1-year loan already. And this is exactly what happened up to 2015 when we had to refinance. And as you rightly pointed out in your intro, when you look at debt, there's a lot that's been suspended, which is waiting for future governments and future generations. And I think that is what we should have been hearing from the minister in terms of what is the path, for us to open even our own domestic bond market, which is decimated, for which there's been no apologies for the haircuts and whatever as a final, major economic document. So I think this is the point. Giving us nominal figures doesn't give us the context, in which, we should be making the analysis. And you can, for example, you mentioned 3 months of import cover. Your coverage was more precise. And this is an issue which has been a difference between the government and even the IMF, not including our oil revenue in calculating the import cover. So I can go on. Inflation,
are you suggesting that was what was done? I'll move on to my other guests shortly, but are you suggesting that was done, and that means that even some of these figures we've put out, including import cover and all of that, are not accurate? Is that what you're saying?
I'm saying that they are, yes, in terms of the method of calculations, because they are special reserves. And in our own laws, we do not include them in the import cover. So if you are comparing, for example, the current performance with past performance, you are not being, fair. The analysis is not being, and then it also makes us complacent. And I think there's a lot that is making us, complacent, which we should be. Probably we'll discuss some of them as we go along.
Yes, but just clarify this point for me. You say the law stipulates that some things ought to be done. Is that to say that the finance minister and the finance ministry are engaging in illegality by not putting what you would call accurate information out there, both on their website and also, like you're referencing, even in terms of our import cover? Are they engaging in illegality?
To the extent that it's not published. That's what it is. From debt to ESLA to, oil revenues and the rest, they're supposed to be published. And the means of publication includes being put on the website and also on other, in the daily newspapers and the rest. So if you have seen it, I have not. And that is the context in which I'm making my point.
Okay.
And you can Google, you can let your producers Google even before we leave. Try to get any information on debt, which used to be put for past years. Try to Google for any information on the fiscal situation, including even the budget that has been read on the Ministry of Finance website. I'm saying this because this is what we need for regular analysis, and that is why these have now been put in the Public Financial Management Act.
Thank you.
So in sum, I'm saying that we even lack, adequate information to be able to come to a firm conclusion as to where we are. And we can later on come to other issues like inflation and the rest, which
we will come to them.
Still at a very high. Yes.
We will come to them, Doc. Let me also acknowledge the presence of Dr. Joseph Obeng. He is president of the Ghana Union of Traders Association. Dr. Obeng, good morning. Do we have Dr. Obeng on the line? Dr. Joseph Obeng, good morning. You would have to unmute so I can hear you.
Good morning.
All right. Thank you for joining the conversation. Let me also bring into the conversation Dr. Theo Acheampong. For you, what is your basic understanding of what happened yesterday? Did you get what you were expecting from the finance minister? Some of the thorny issues have already been raised by Setekbe. For you, what is your reading of what happened yesterday?
Once again, good morning. And I think there are different issues that we need to unpack from the growth story, or quote unquote what the government likes to call it, the turnaround story, and some of the numbers sort of underpinning it, to a number of the issues that, as Uncle said, highlights in relation to, for example, the debt financing and things to do with what we've got to do to build a more equitable and robust, economy that actually creates jobs, going forward. So how do you bring in the SMEs? How do you ensure that the private sector, for example, has access to credit and there's liquidity to support that? So that's sort of the approach that I like to take it from. And if you take it from the first strand of where we were, say, 2 years ago, with a very severe crisis and a lot of the economic indicators going in a negative direction, vis-a-vis where we are now, where you look at, for example, the inflation figures now. I think it's around 23 or so percent, still high, and nowhere near the 15% end of year target. You look at the growth figures that have come in, and quarter, we seem to have some uptick or momentum on growth. And you look at, for example, reserves and other indicators, you could, on the surface, argue that at the macro level, using those indicators, there seems to be relative stability. But there are major issues or major challenges at the micro level, and especially when it comes to how you deal with the cost of business and borrowing rates and borrowing trends, and even how the government is going to finance its budget obligations, going forward, and at whose expense or cost. So if you take, for example, on the financing bit, it's good that the government said in this supplementary budget that they are not going to they're not asking for any more money. And that's really on account of the fact that there are some deferments they are getting on the expenditure front, and then also the interest savings, and then a little bit on the revenue side. So revenues were down, but if you look at the numbers that were accompanying the media budget in paragraphs 57 and 58 of the document, you see that there's a bigger cut in expenditure vis-a-vis, the revenue. And then you also look at the actual financing, right, of the deficit. And this is what gives me a bit of cause for worry. So you look at paragraph 22, paragraph 60 of the media budget, and basically almost 72%, right? So 7 cedis out of every 10 cedis that the government is going to borrow to finance the deficit is going to come from the domestic market. So government will still be issuing treasury bills and other instruments. And like Cassette was saying, this then means that they still have to pay very high borrowing costs. But not only that, it actually also means that businesses such as the one that Uncle Joseph has would have to compete with the government for the same liquidity or capital to do their business. And that is very, very challenging for businesses in terms of getting access to capital and liquidity, where borrowing rates are still well in excess of 70% going forward. And then also then means, as we all probably are aware, for me, the government cannot go to the international capital market probably not until 2028 or 2027, thereabouts, once we finish this IMF program. So the whole growth story of what you're seeing at the macro side is still not being fully reflected at the micro level because of the constraint with access to capital. But number two, also because of the very high tax environment that we still find ourselves in. There are a number of tax handles that many businesses complain and have complained about. And of course, the government has to make a very difficult choice of, the trade-off between those tax revenues and bringing them down so businesses are able to compete. Then there's also the CD, the exchange rate story, in all of this. I think the finance minister said, compared to last year, the depreciation has been much slower, the same period this year than last year. But for me, it's neither here nor there. When you still have your currency losing by a mid-year point close to 20% of its value, that is problematic, So it's like asking us to debate or go down, the worst path, which I actually don't think it should be the case. People want stability, and when I have to change almost 16 cedis to get $1 to be able to either import or to do other things, again, that would, have a major impact on growth. So I think overall, what the story from the media budget tells me is that you've got some relative stabilization, yes, but it's still not, being fully felt in, bread and butter issues. It's not being fully felt in the business environment, and people are still, struggling to be able to sort of make ends meet. One or two proposals in there that I think quickly is quite useful is and it's actually part of the IMF conditionality. So the amendment to the Fiscal Responsibility Act to put in place, which was actually set aside during the pandemic, that's going to come back by the end of this parliament. That act will come back with a revision to the rules, the deficit rule, and then the debt rule, as well as strengthening the fiscal council to have an oversight on some of the spending parameters. I think that that's a good thing, and that's commendable. And then also there was an attempt in the document to talk about housing and trying to do something with housing and supporting SME growth. But these are more long-term measures that is not going to immediately have an impact on the economic prospect of the country. And I think that in the substantive budget that will be read in November, we may get a bit more detail around issues with housing and then on other issues to do with supporting the SME sector of the economy and like roads and things like that.
All right. Thank you, Dr. Acheampong. Let me bring in Dr. Joseph Obeng. Some were expecting that taxes would be shaved off. None of those were shaved off, but in fact, there were no additional taxes either. Did that make you happy, Dr. Obeng?
Yeah. Our experience have shown that the media budget do not normally touch on the substantive budget. It's only for a supplementary budget or revise some of the targets. So in that aspect, we were not expecting those reliefs, tax reliefs from the media budget. But like Dr. Teo said, the mainstream, we put our major input into the mainstream budget on November. That's where we can actually make an argument. Fortunately, all the political parties that we've made it clear that we cannot go on like this. And
hello, Dr. Obeng.
Also accepted the fact that cost of doing business is very high, taxes are numerous, and all are prepared. Hello? Hello?
Yes, you can go ahead. You can go ahead now.
Hello? Hello?
We seem to be facing some challenges with the connection to Dr. Obeng. We'll go back to Seth Tekba, and as and when we have Dr. Obeng back, we'll get back to him. Mr. Tekba, so there's an interesting bit in here, because if you look at our debt situation, end of year 2023, 608.4 billion, end of June 2024, 742 billion Ghana cedis. That's an increment of 133.6 billion in just 6 months. So the question then is, how concerned are you about our debt stock? Some project debt to GDP over 100%. What are your reactions? How concerned are you, Mr. Tekbe?
If you permit me, I would share, the situation as projected by the IMF. But, as I said, the situation facing us with debt, there are three main or four elements which I like to highlight, and probably I would open the while someone is doing a contribution. First of all, I mentioned we are nowhere near the 50 or 55 to 60 or 65%, range, which would be of some comfort in terms of preparing, together with other indices, to go back to the markets, external markets, which are very critical at our stage of development as a lower middle income country, which will be losing concessional financing and grants. Secondly, the debt profile, as projected by the fund, shows clearly and updated to 2029, shows that from 2026 actually, the suspended interests and debt payments will begin to fall due, in line with both the bilateral creditors and the now being negotiated commercial creditors. Even though it's not been published in full, some information that is coming out, being leaked out, gradually shows serious bumps from 2026 through 2020. That's a year, after any new administration. And then, thirdly, when we come to our own domestic market, there are delays in even meeting the commitments, post haircuts. And the domestic markets financing is tough, for the government, in that it is depending on short-term notes and bills, treasury bills, 2-year notes, and the rest, which in principle are actually meant for liquidity management. They are not meant to finance the capital budget, for example. And I say this because when we use some of these to finance, even in terms of 3-year and 5-year bonds, to finance the single spine doom saw, recall that we had to quickly stop the borrowing and negotiate with labor, and look for other solutions like ESLA, to move away from borrowing to meet these short-term commitments and long-term commitments of government, including IPPs and others. There was a tax of ESLA. So in a gist, I'm saying that we have been extending, the tenor, what you call the tenor or the duration or the maturity period for our debt as a conscious policy. And governments, in fact, the current government, as a result of that background, the setting up of the sinking fund, which I understand is to be reinstated and the rest, so that we would reach where we want to, we were able to even issue, the current government as well as the JM administration started issuing even forex, denominated bonds, which non-residents, not just Ghanaians, and Ghanaians were patronizing on our Ghana Stock Exchange. So this is the edifice that has collapsed. And I would have wished for a structural explanation of how we are going to bring these, markets, back. The cut is expenditure is belated. Sorry, is delayed, but welcome, because you would note, that this has come about because of the inability to increase more taxes. And I think as a nation, we need to be reflecting, of the fact that we need to reverse the debt situation, because I have said it, I believe even on the show, that this is the second major debt episode that this country is going through. HIPIC was the first one, and it came with with forgiveness of a significant amount, the debts, that we owed, from about 150% plus to 28%. Some data put it at, 30, 35%. But that is significant forgiveness of the debts. And despite having more resources in terms of oil fields, increasing it from 1 field to 3, and then increasing output from about 70,000 barrels per day to nearly 200,000 barrels, per day, we find ourselves in a situation where we are not being totally forgiven. There's some haircut, which is forgiveness. now including citizens, right? And as a result of which we have some relief. I would advise that we should be including on an accrual basis the debt that we are suspending to give us a better picture. It is still a liability which must be paid, and therefore excluding it is the very reason why we started accounts payable module, which was to have gone into the gift mix from 2017, but was not done. And today it is an IMF conditionality. Do we have to wait for IMF to make everything a conditionality, including, initiatives which we start, ourselves?
Right.
So, in fact, in some, I don't think we should be gratified at all with the debt situation in which we are. There is a big hump that is waiting for us, just as there was that big hump waiting for us in 2014. We started a single span. And that hump was the fact that, the His Excellency President Kufuor's bond was going to fall due in 2017 without any preparation to pay principal. We were paying only interest. And so let me pause at this stage. And this is my reading of the debt situation.
Right. Let me see whether I can get Dr. Obeng back on the line. Dr. Obeng, can you hear me?
I can hear you, Claire.
Okay, the connection was bad for a moment. You were telling us about how you felt about non-addition of taxes, which is to be expected, but also non-scrapping of existing taxes. Your take?
Yeah, so that's what we're expecting. That we're not expecting that the old taxes have going to be removed. That was obvious, and that our major input will be made in the mainstream budget to be held on November. But if you look at the economic report that was given to us, the figures, some of them very positive, but all that we seek is the stability of the local currency. It's very important to us. So whatever
Dr. Obeng?
Measure that they have done them to. Hello?
Go ahead. I can hear you.
So we want them to make every effort to sustain some of these gains with regards, especially with the stability of the local currency. It's very important to the business community. And then also, we are very, they provided some mitigating factor in the SME growth and opportunity. The funds that they provided, we see it as a mitigating factor, but these funds should be directed to targeted areas so that it will have a positive effect on the economy. And we think that overall, if you look at some most of the figures, even with the debt restructuring and all that, we've come this far, and it can be said that it is inspiring some hope and confidence into the system. But all that we need is to make every effort to sustain this growth and even enhance on the local currency, and then also bring the inflation further down, so that businesses can have the respite to grow again.
Let me bring in Dr. Theo Acheampong. Two issues from where Dr. Obeng left off. The cedi, he wants stability. You mentioned, I believe you are the one who spoke about the cedi to the dollar being what? Requiring 16 cedis to exchange for $1, and of course 20 plus for a pound. The cedi has depreciated by 18.6% in the first half of 2022. How does that reflect on our IMF program and the stability of our currency moving forward? And I want you to tie that into the commitment and cash angles of our overall budget deficit. You would have heard the finance minister suggest that we are spending within budget. We are in fact underspending. If you look at the overall budget deficit on a commitment basis, it stands at 17.5 billion Ghana cedis. On a cash basis, 27 billion Ghana cedis. What do you make of these 2 points?
Okay, yeah. So let me start with the deficit one, and then I'll come to the city one. And actually to leverage an important point that was made by Uncle Seth in his submission. If you look at the June 2024 IMF report that they issued for Ghana off the back of the second review, it is very clear, and we have to be very emphatic on this, that the 55% debt to GDP reduction that we are looking at overall, by the end of the program in 2026, is not going to be met. So the public debt numbers that we've got on a gross basis from the IMF, actually the projection is that by the end of 2029, we would be doing about 66.9% debt to GDP. And by the end of 2026, we will still be at about 76% debt to GDP. Of course, it's still a reduction compared to almost like 100% at the end of 2022, thereabout. But it does show you that even with the restructuring of the debt that we've got going on, both the domestic one and then the external bilateral and the external commercial, which we're still waiting for the consent solicitation and the offers and all of that. The idea of meeting or getting the debt down to sustainable levels, in this case below 60% debt to GDP, is not going to be met according to these recent projections that the IMF itself makes. So the implication really of that is that if you want to still push much forward to actually meet those targets, right, you've got to either cut back on your spending, or the economy grows fast enough such that your GDP becomes much bigger, and then when you work out that metric, the number comes down. But at the moment, as we speak, that 55% debt to GDP target by the end of 2026, when we exit the IMF program, is highly unlikely to be met. And I think that is also partly what informs the numbers that we've seen in the mid-year budget, where the fiscal framework and the commitments that we're seeing basically then means that the overall balance is still come down. So you're right that on a commitment basis, I think it's been revised from 50 billion or 4.8% of GDP down to 42 billion or 4.2% of GDP. And then the primary balance also on commitment. Commitment shows you all the projections that you have made going forward and the things that you have to pay for. We actually have a positive primary balance. In other words, when you take out your revenue and you subtract the expenditure, but you don't account for debt servicing costs, you actually have a positive, primary balance in that context. But the biggest thing from all of that is that the financing of it, like I said very early on, is still largely going to be driven by government borrowing from the domestic market. And that puts a lot of pressure on liquidity. And then on the question of the CD, that is absolutely critical for almost everyone, right? Not just traders, because that drives inflation expectations, that drives the cost of doing business, and even some of the tax handles that the GRA and others, collect at the port. Because when you bring your goods in, a lot of the things on the ICOM system is actually dollar converted into cedis. So when you're having the depreciation almost 18-19%, it then basically means that you have to pay more taxes at the port, and ultimately you're going to pass that on to consumers to also pay, and that drives a lot of the inflation expectations and things like that. Commodity prices have been relatively modest. But if you look at our capital accounts, so the trade balance has been largely positive for the last few years. But where we're also losing a lot of money actually comes from the capital accounts, where you have a lot of the portfolio inflows. And I've heard suggestions almost to the point that we should institute some capital control measures and things like that in an attempt to retain more of those dollars in the system to show up the CD. I don't think that would necessarily work, and actually would end up, having more negative impact on investor expectation than we expect.
Let me ask you, though, just a quick one. I'll pose that question to Seth Tekpe as well. If you look at our old targets versus the new in terms of the macroeconomic indicators, real GDP growth, the old target was 2.8%, has been revised upwards to 3.1%. Non-oil GDP growth from 2.1 to 2.8% per the latest review. End period inflation, 15%, it's being held. And then primary balance as well, 0.5%. Are these realistic, especially the first two, real GDP growth, non-oil GDP growth?
Yeah, absolutely. I think we've seen an uptick and a momentum within the economy, and I think those numbers very likely to be met. I actually think it may actually end up, we may end the year with a slightly bigger or higher number than originally, forecast, and even the revisions that have been made. So the GDP growth numbers very positive, but you can actually see that some of the other numbers that are in the projections in terms of the end period inflation figure of 15%, I doubt that we'll be able to meet that. And then the reserves of 3 months of import cover, yes, but there's a technical definition of that, and I know it's one of the sticky points between, even in the IMF program, do you include your encumbered and pledged assets as part of your total reserves, or should you be reporting the net reserves? But that's a technical question. But I think overall, yes, the GDP number is very highly likely to be met. Inflation, I have my doubts on that.
All right. Thank you very much. So we're wrapping the conversation, gentlemen. If you look at the balance deficit, it's also been reviewed downwards from 50.26 billion Ghana cedis to 42.5 billion. But as I take your final comments, I also want you to factor in the fact that in election years like this one, there is a tendency for government not to rein in spending. In 2016, under an IMF program, somehow, Seth Tekpe, you were able to do that, to rein in spending so that you didn't exceed your spending. What are your expectations? Do you think this administration can rein in spending ahead of election 2024? And gentlemen, then you add your final comments. I'll start with you, Seth Tekpe.
Thank you very much. Yes, we are able to do it, and basically as very important to reduce expenditure, and that's where the difficulty lies, because as Dr. Ben said, we are even expressing satisfaction that there has not been any tax increase, which has been almost excessive every year for the last 8 years, which is welcome. But that deprives us of revenue, and programs like ITAS have not been put in place to supplement ICOMS, the administrative end of tax compliance. And therefore, that's why we keep relying on levies. And the levies needs to be actually phased out in a structural, manner, because otherwise we are going back. All these levies used to be in existence and were subsumed under the VAT. There were about 18, or so levies that were subsumed under the VAT, baby ones, and the rest. On the growth point, the irony is that we are going to 2016 numbers, despite potentials like 3 oil shares. In fact, the 3.6 was on the old basis, the deficits that occurred as a result of the shortfall of, crude prices and the rest, and the revision of the budget. The 2.8 is on the new basis, exactly where we were in 2016. So it's a lost opportunity, and therefore it means that we have to do more. because growth can bring in revenue, reduce the deficit, and impact debt, and therefore that is the sequence. And then impact debt, reduction of arrears, and all of those things, so that we'll be able to get back to using medium and long-term instruments to finance the budget, and that would also ease the squeezing out, which Dr. Acheampong mentioned, in terms of the crowding out, rather, of the private sector and the exchange rate. I think is something we have to work hard on, also on a structural basis, reclaim some of the Galamsey land for cocoa production to increase, and many such, measures. And that would also impact the exchange rates, obviously. In sum, what I'd like to say is that we need to start looking at deeper structural measures, over the next, beyond the program to what the fund itself has projected to 2028, 2029, as Dr. Acheampong mentioned, and introduce many, many significant structural measures, stabilization fund. Let me make a last point. The issue with which Dr. Acheampong said was technical is that if you assume that your oil revenues are part of your import cover, simple explanation, you are assuming that they are available for imports to support DOC's businesses and the rest, particularly, for consumption. And therefore, it means that you are being flippant with the purposes for which they were established, to set up buffers for the economy, to set up, funds, repayment funds to reduce the debt level, and then prepare for contingencies, like the flooding and others that occurred. I think that's a simple explanation. And that is why, so long as it is in law that they must be used for these purposes, you can't come back without amending the law and treat them as available for regular imports.
Okay. Thank you so much for those thoughts. Let me take the thoughts of Dr. Acheampong as well. On that matter, your expectations in terms of rating and spending, and also any concluding thoughts you may have. Takeaways.
Yeah, so I think on the spending front, the numbers so far indicate that it's been contained. And I think also because the IMF is more or less around, I don't think that we're going to overspend this year. I don't see, that happening. I think the bigger point which Seth and others make really is, how do we deepen the reforms and use this opportunity that we've got to restructure and turn around the economy to be more responsible with our public finances, to ensure that we actually spend the money in the areas that are growth enhancing, can create jobs, and ensure that you actually have a more robust and equitable economy that works for every Ghanaian. That for me is the paramount, objective, and this has to be done across party lines and across institutional lines. Other than that, some of these small gains that we're celebrating will be here, and we actually end up going for our 19th and 20th program in the next few years.
Interesting thoughts. Thank you very much. Dr. Obeng, for you, in the business community, are you expecting government to be able to check spending and ensure that we don't end up in more turbulent waters? What are your final words for us?
Yeah, most of our programs of this numerous taxes is as a result of excessive expenditure, and that, if it is controlled, is going to help us. Because if you overspend, then you have to go and find the money. And where do they get the money? They have to come to us and with more taxes. So it's very important that we control our expenditure, and that's why I was happy that the finance minister did not come for supplementary budget, and that he says he's going to work within his limit. We should avoid the temptation, even in this election year, not to throw the economy out of so that we can have a stable environment. Businesses thrive on stable environment, and then the stability of the local currency is very important. And most of these things are tied with expenditure. So it is very necessary that we do everything to contain the expenditure so that we can also have the respect to grow as businesses. Yeah.
Well, thank you very much for joining the conversation, gentlemen. We had SETECPE former finance minister, Dr. Joseph Obeng. You just heard him. He is president of GUTA. And we also had joining the conversation, Dr. Theo Acheampong as well, an economist and political risk analyst. Thank you so much for adding color to this conversation. But from here, you do remember that something else that was mentioned, property taxes, road tolls to be reintroduced in 2025. It means it will be factored into budget 2024, the end of it, for 2025, I mean. Joining us from the Tema motorway stretch, inbound, heading into Tema, we have our very own Sweetie Abochi. She's there, and she has something to share with us on the road toll bit. The toll booths, what's happened? What's the way forward? Sweetie Abochi, if you can hear me, please take over.
Finance. We are here at the motorway trying to understand how people feel about road tolls coming back. Also, don't forget that the reason we pay e-levy was a way of substituting road tolls to gather some revenue. I'm here with some individuals, some residents who want to share their opinion on how they're taking this news that indeed plans are underway to reintroduce tolls in here in the cities. Good morning, Mr. Gidisu. So how does this make you feel?
Actually, for them bringing back the toll and not taking off the e-levy. Actually, before they said they are taking off the toll and bringing the e-levy, they promised to do some things. But those things have not been done. And as those things have not been done, I don't know what people who are close to them make them know that these things that you've taken off and not bringing the ones you promised. I don't know how they make them understand. But for the toll, before, there are people who sell around here. And but for them to bring the toll and not take people, like they sell different items. And then when they cancel the toll, those people, they are just played. Some are not having their jobs.
We apologize for the poor quality of that connection and the sound, but we're going to try to reconnect with Sweetie Abochi to let us know how people feel about the reintroduction of tolls. But before we take our break, if you're stressed out about all your cleaning needs, worry no more. Dan's World Services is your one-stop shop, which meets all your commercial and residential cleaning needs, from pest control, janitorial and house cleaning services, event cleaning and waste management, as well as carpet and sofa cleaning as well. Whether at home or at work, we understand and know how haptic cleaning can be coupled with your busy lifestyle. And that's why we've got great news for you. Dan's World Environmental and Facility Management Services has got you completely covered. We excel in whatever we do, leaving you beyond your wildest expectations. Locate us at Excel House opposite Regimanuel Estate, Nungwa Barrier, or call us on these numbers. Are you ready? 0302 905 538 or 0555 752 361. Dan's World Services, beyond expectation. We'll be back after the break with more. Do stay.
Research.
Well, we have them in the studio today because they are also marking their 75th anniversary launch and unveiling of their logo. So who are they? Those joining me in the studio for a conversation. Mrs. Faustina Adane, she is LOSA 98, that is Labone Old Students Association 98, chairman of the media, or chairperson of the media and publicity for the 75th anniversary. And joining her is Mr. Stephen Ni Amon Kote. He is also LOSA organizer and chairman of the LOSA 75th Anniversary Committee. I am with my seniors this morning by a few years. One by quite a few years.
Yeah.
Anyway, good morning.
Good morning.
Thank you for joining the conversation.
Thank you for having us.
Let's start off with Labone SHS. I'm sure during your time, Labone Secondary School, and what it was like, what it means to you being a product of this institution. I'm taking you by surprise there. I'll start with you, Faustina.
Thank you, and good morning to our listeners, all LOSers and all PTA. We are grateful to have us on this show. I think it feels great to come up with the school, bearing in mind where I am now in terms of career growth and all that. But I would also want to just give a fair idea of what Labone is all about that we are here to speak about. So Labone started in 1949 at Acheampong, Osu, and was then called Labone College. Its motto then was Think and Fly, and for me that was a very interesting motto. In November 1957, the school name was changed into Ghana College. Fast forward till date, the school is now called Labone Senior High School, with its motto being Premium Semper Aurora, meaning always first at dawn. And if we want to take the Ga version of our motto, we say walk bear, lag bear. Okay. So this school was actually founded by 6 illustrious sons of our land in their quest to bring education closer to La, Osu, and its environs. And these people are Reverend Dr. Amate Amakwe, Mr. Joseph Andokesi, our old Dr. Ebenezer Akwaje of the Big Six. We have Dr. Daniel A.K. Sowa. We have Mr. John Spencer Bilson, and to mention a few, who actually went all out to ensure that the school became school. Having identified and established as a school, we thought of having an identity, and therefore we engaged Ni Amonkote, who designed the Ghana coat of arms, to actually design our crest for us, and we are so proud and grateful to Ni, wherever he may be today. Having established ourselves under the Ghana education, I think we have significant and key people heading our school, and I would just want to mention a few. We have Reverend Dr. S.K.J.C., we have Mr. E.A. Lamte, Mr. Lomo Jones, we have Mrs. Cecilia Agrimensa, Mrs. Joyce Ohinie Jekum. Just for time, I'll just mention this few. And for us at Labone, if we want to have a bragging right, I know every school has, then we are talking of academia. And therefore, we are proud to say that the West Africa Examination Award for SHS was won by one of our students in Labone. When it comes to sports, you can find us there. And hey, singing and jamming, we are not missed out.
Oh,
so that is all
the singing I could tell from your school's anthem.
Yeah.
I could tell from there.
So we are not missed out on them. Yeah, so that's
I see.
About.
For you, Stephen, what would you say in that regard?
Okay, thank you. Thank you once again, and good morning to all your viewers, especially the Labone fraternity, including the board members, management, teachers, and the almighty LOSA members. The PTA is not left out, and then the students. Labone, as we say, is a very great school. We say that Labone is the only school that is placed in a residential area. For others, we don't know. But Labone really has shaped me, starting from Form 1 up to Upper 6. I'm now somebody that I can boast of. We have a lot of things that we can share that points to the fact that Labone is one of the best schools in Ghana. So from where I sit and where I am in terms of academia and then organizational aspects, I have achieved a lot through the training and tutelage that I received from Labone.
I see. Interesting points. So 75 years on, there's a lot to celebrate. You're going to have this anniversary launch and the unveiling of your logo. What have the planning processes been like thus far? I'll come to you, Faustina. You are actually in charge of media and publicity, which has landed you here.
Yeah.
But what has it been like?
Well, so far, I think that through collaboration and coordination of all stakeholders, we've had a very good planning, and we hope to have a very grand unveiling and launching of our anniversary. So we have engaged quite a number of partners, and we are still calling on more. We use this medium to also call on the general public and our corporate organizations around where we find our school to also come to our aid. We have been out there with all our jingles, our flyers, and other things that we think that, will draw people's attention. But to nail it down itself to the activities, we are going to have our luncheon, which in fact is coming on the 1st of August at National Theatre, 4:30 sharp, all the way leads to that side. We also have a career day and then a family fun day, which will also be organized in the school. We are looking at giving back to the society in which we live, and therefore by having a health screening for the people within Osu and Labadi and its environs. And hey, everybody likes jamming, like I said. So the homecoming, we are not leaving it out, where we are going to have bazaar, food competition, dancing competition, and we are expecting our LOSA from North America, those in UK and all the rest, touching down so that we have this fun. Speech day is going to crown our planning or our anniversary, and all Jack and no play, or all work and no play, sorry, make Jack a dull boy. So we are not going to just end it with the speech and prize giving day, but we are going to have a gala dinner dance at Labadi Beach, as well as a Thanksgiving to thank God for how far we have come. Yeah.
Let me come to you now. So you are more in charge of the 75th anniversary from different angles as well. As an organizer, what has it been like? Are you rallying the troops? Are people showing the level of commitment that you would want? This is big. 75 years is not a joke. This is your diamond jubilee.
Yes. Thank you for this question, and it's very interesting. From onset, in fact, the enthusiasm was very, very high. We started with this publicity, and it's been a long time since the 70th anniversary that we had such a big thing. So when we started, in fact, a lot more showed interest, and when you talk of interest, it means that they are bringing their resources, some are bringing other things, that to ensure that we have a very successful event. Talk of the event proper, meaning the lunch. We are having His Excellency Mr. Makwe to chair the event, and then we have Major General Odote also to be the guest speaker. So if you have these two high-profile people on the bill, then you can see that it's very big. We won't mention everybody to leave out the almighty Togbe Afede, who is also a LOSA. He's also representing. So it's not a small thing. Diamond Jubilee, in fact, it's big. So you can have all the big people you can think of. It's
big, and you can have all the big people. I'll come back later to those, your chairman, the keynote speaker, among others. But looking at your theme, 75 years of academic excellence, celebrating our past and empowering our future through technology. Your school has also had a few challenges here and there, SHS, some dynamics. I've heard of a few over the past few years. What are you doing in that regard as well? How is the alumni community working to make the school better?
Okay, so it's good.
And of course, I'll give you an opportunity to talk about that.
It's good you've brought this up. It's something that is dear to our hearts as alumni. And some of the challenges we've been able to identify, if you go to our dining halls, in fact, it's not a good thing. You go to our science lab, it's not a good thing. You talk about the whole infrastructure in the school. In fact, it's something that we are trying to sort out. And going back to LOSA members to solicit for funds, I think there is donor fatigue setting in. So we've planned to construct an ultra-modern AstroTurf just to get more revenue to sort out these issues that are there. So we call on all philanthropists, corporate organizations to partner us to get this AstroTurf. If we are able to do it, a lot of revenue will be coming out of it to sort out these problems. But in the interim, year groups also go to the school, identify the problems, and then whichever they are able to cater for, they go in to do that. So plans are underway, and we want to solve it once and for all with our AstroTurf project.
I see. Faustina, I noticed you wanted to add something to that.
Yes, so we are looking at revenue generation activities, and aside the AstroTurf, we're also looking at widening the boarding facility. As much as we want to rope in more people, we know the challenge of academics in recent times. So that is one of our focus areas, that we are going to rehabilitate some few dormitories to accommodate more students, and then try to put up structures to accommodate more students, so that come next academic or into the future, we should be able to have more people. Because for us, we believe education is key, and to have our young ones catered for.
All right. So on D-Day, I mean, there's a speech on Prize Giving Day, among others. Just walk us through once more what is going to happen over the course of the days that you're going to be having this ceremony, the anniversary launch, and what do you expect of all students, LOSA, for example. What are your expectations of LOSA?
Well, so this is, somebody who said this is our own baby we gave birth to, and gradually we are seeing it growing. So our expectation is that everyone, whether you have been in the school for just a term, whether you have been in the school for just a day, our expectation is that you join us at the National Theatre. Let's try to remember our past, what the school has given back to us in terms of academia, where we find ourselves in society, how influential or what impact are we making to society through the school that has shaped us from the beginning. So we are calling on all LOSA members, both in Ghana and abroad, to come down. Let's have this done beautifully. And we are not leaving the general public out, because we know some may have their children there or parents. We are calling on you to also come, and let's have this anniversary celebrated in a very grand style.
All right. I'll let you talk about same as we conclude, but I did say that I would go back to the speakers, those prominent people attending. His Excellency Amakaya Matefio, Major General Odote, retired. There's Mrs. Rejoice Equia Akolo, the Labone SHS headmistress, and Mr. Listerwell Agbeli, LOSA president. What can we expect from them? What are your final words?
Well, these are losses apart from the headmistress, and they wouldn't sit down for the program not to succeed. So even currently, they've put in some resources just to ensure that the program succeeds. And talk about the program proper, they've been checking up every now and then to ensure that every logistics is on point. We are not 100% yet, but 1 week away, we are looking at 90%, and they ensure that everything is in place. So they are not sitting down looking at just the organizing team, but as much as they are playing this role, they are also on the ground doing their own thing just to ensure the success of the whole event.
Right. Final words.
Okay, so final words to what you've just asked. I believe that brand is very key, and these personalities come in, have some brand, and they want to hold that brand in high esteem. And therefore, we are expecting that the channel and then the staircase to which they have climbed to this ladder should be shared with all and sundry, just to help shape the thinking, just to help shape the career future of all LOSA, including the students, including the general public, who may take some counsel from there. And that is our expectation for the speakers.
All right. Thank you very much, and we wish you the very best as you embark on this journey. 75 years, no mean feat. Those who joined us in the studio, Mrs. Faustina Danilosa, 98, Chairman of the Media and Publicity Committee for the 75th anniversary. We also had, joining the conversation, Mr. Stephen Ni Amonkote, LOSA organizer and chairman of the LOSA 75th anniversary committee. Of course, we wish them the very best, you were saying?
To some people who have assisted up to this point. First and foremost, we want to say a big thank you to Multimedia for a great job that they've done so far. And then to my committee members, they've also put in their all. Yesterday we slept around 12 a.m. And then to LOSA members who are putting their resources in, and then the general public who are also supporting us, corporate institutions. We are getting some donations from them. We want to extend appreciation to all of them. Thank you very much.
We thank you too. Well, we're going to take a bit of a breather, but before we do so, under the distinguished patronage of Her Ladyship Chief Justice Gertrude Tokonu, well, the UPSA Law School proudly presents the 2024 Lifetime Achievement in Law Award and Honorific Lecture. This event presents a rare but high-level opportunity to recognize and acknowledge the outstanding and exemplary contributions of notable Ghanaian personalities in the areas of the rule of law, governance, and the legal academy. This year's Lifetime Achievement in Law Award will be conferred on none other than Nana Dr. SKB Asante. He is Paramount Chief of Asante Asokori, former Director, United Nations Center on Transnational Corporations, and Chairman of the Committee of Experts that drafted the 1992 Constitution of Ghana. This will be held at an august ceremony befitting the aura of the occasion. The event comes off on Thursday, the 25th of July, 2024 at 5 p.m. You know that's tomorrow, right? It's happening at the Kofi Ohene Konedu Auditorium at the UPSA. Visit the social media platforms of the UPSA Law School or call 0245 347 946 for more information. We take a breather. When we return from Labone, we'll head to Prempeh. The Amanfoɔ will be joining us in the studio. We'll be right back. Subaina Nimdie, that is the motto of the Amanfoɔ of Prempeh College, and they are here. Of course, we do this because for those of us who attended colleges, you know, Bishop Herman College, Prempeh College, we have a vibe. Joining us in the studio this morning as they talk about their homecoming event, their project launch and all that, we have Reverend Ebenezer Sego. He is the 1999 year group president for the Amanfoɔ of Prempeh College. Reverend Sego, thank you very much for joining the conversation. We also have Gilbert Bwedu, who is the fundraising committee member. He also joins the conversation. Thank you, gentlemen, for coming.
Thank you for having us. Thank you.
There's something I share in common with them, but we're not going to talk about that on air. We are definitely not talking about that. But let's look at this. 25 years since you graduated, you're having this homecoming, and there are some projects you are working on. But like I did with those from Labone, I just like to find out where you are today. How much of that do you ascribe to Prempeh College? I'll start with you, Rev.
Okay. So I think when you mentioned I'm the vice president of the 99 year group.
Vice president.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
I think everything that we are now, apart from God, I owe majority to Prempeh College. Okay. You know, it shaped me from a very young age to be able to be articulate and to learn certain skills that you usually will not learn at home, because, you know, most of us at that age, you spend a lot of your time in school, and the school helps you and shapes you to become better. So I can say that most of the things we do now, I owe that to Prempeh College.
All right. For you?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I'd definitely say everything that I am today is pinched out of Prempeh College. I used to be in the cadets in Prempeh College. I was a cadet commander, and I spent 3 years in that
Why do I get the feeling, looking at you, that you would have been dishing out some slaps and hitting?
Oh, no slaps. I probably would get...
The way you say it innocently, I don't think... If you attended Prempeh College, and
I am such an...
You know Gorazo, that's his nickname. Please let me know whether he dealt you any. You can share it on the
I'm such an innocent, God-fearing gentleman.
Hey!
You know, very calm, down to earth. No problems whatsoever. Right, so I spent 3 years of my life in the college, and I moved on to the UK. That's where I live now. I live and work in the UK. And then I transitioned into the UK military.
Okay.
And I got my basic knowledge from the cadets in Ghana. And then now I am an area manager for a financial institution in the UK, Wealthmax. So, and I studied business at Prempeh College. So this is where I picked up everything that I needed to be able to get to where
So getting into the military from the cadet, it started from there.
Absolutely.
Where you work now, the business acumen, you started developing it from
Prempeh College.
Right.
So Prempeh College is basically the whole of me, really.
All right. Let's now get into this homecoming event. 25 years on. It's more like your silver jubilee.
Yeah.
Tell us about the homecoming, what processes you've gone through thus far, and what we can expect with this homecoming. I'll come back to you, Rev.
Well, yeah, so we started planning this about a year ago. And we put together various committees. You know, this year, Prempeh College as a school also celebrates its 75th anniversary. So we were the Jubilee year group.
And now you are the Jubilee returnees, if you like.
So we stand at a very good, they'll say, the millennial year group. And what we've done so far, the journey in the past year, is to be able to mobilize our year group, bring together our people, and be able to put together the projects that we are going to talk about. And then at homecoming, we're looking at some of our friends and our year group members who have become also prominent in the society, both in Ghana and away. And they are all coming back to the school for us to also share with the students and the general public what we've been able to learn, to achieve, and then how we can also help to shape the next generation coming out of the school.
I see. For you, what would you say? 25 years on and coming through with this, like he rightly mentioned, Diamond Jubilee for the school and Silver Jubilee for you guys.
Yes. You know, the founder of our school, Reverend Pearson, together with the Asantehene at the time, Reverend Pearson made a bold statement many, many years ago. He said that the fruits of Prempeh College, the products that Prempeh College is trying to raise, the intention is not for them to look up to government and then what the country can do for them, but rather for what we can do for the country. So if you look at
some John F. Kennedy, and
it's really true as per everything else that has happened to us over time. So we've said that 25 years transforming lives and communities, and we have transformed lives and communities. My brother, the vice president, did mention that we've got a whole lot of people in very good places, even after 25 years. Quite a short time, but these people are all well placed and they are doing very, very well, which is why it's extremely important that we create what we call guru lectures for them to go back and impact these students, because these students are most likely into theoretical stuff. But here we are going with people who are on the field to give them directions as per how to maneuver your way out when you leave campus. So for me, it's a fantastic opportunity for us to go back in there, see what we left behind 25 years ago, see what else we can do, in as much as we've done so much already.
I see. Well, and I also see that you have a homecoming mentoring and coaching session. Before we get to those who will be major faces for your 25th anniversary and what project you are working on, I see here the coaching session, and I see some, there's Henry Nanabwache in there. There's Joseph Acheampong, branch manager at Stanbic Ghana. You put a few of them there. Can you, Rev, tell us briefly about some of them? Why don't I see, what's his name? Chema Untumi in here. What happened to Untumi?
Well, he's not in our year group.
Yeah. He's not in your year group.
That's,
okay.
The reason. All the faces you see here are all in our year group.
Oh, I see.
Yes.
All right. So tell us a bit about these faces that you selected for the homecoming mentoring.
Okay, so you see, we were looking at more of career, so we had to bring in diversity. Those who want to go into politics, Nana B is there, so you can look at that. Those
banking.
Joseph
Acheampong
is there. Those who want to go into entrepreneurship, Daniel Apia is in there. When it comes to educationists, Enoch Oye, who is also a vice principal of the ICS, he's in there. For legal and business, we have Senior Bento and then Kwame Sefabaswa also there. And not only them, you know, they are the panel, but we have all others who will also be coming in.
Right.
All of us will be there to also help in articulating what and showing and directing for questions that will be coming in various fields. We have other medical personnel. We have senior surgeons that are in our group, cardiologists, and a few others in the medical sector also who will be there to also assist and show our students what, if they want to go into various fields, what they can do in those fields. So that's why we had these our fellow old students who are going to be in the panel, and the rest of us who sit within the crowd also to also answer some of the questions.
Right, that's great. Let's now talk about the major faces who are going to basically be the standouts for your homecoming and the project you've been working on. Let's start with the project. What can you share with us, Gorazio?
Yes, of course. There are two projects, two massive projects that we've been able to deliver. One is a water system. Ghana in itself has some issues with water supply, right? Premier College is no different. The water supply to the schools has faced its own problems. And over the years, we've tried some makeshift solutions, which have not actually worked. So we had to spend time, pay some good money to investigate, to find out a more sustainable solution going forward. We've involved Ghana Water Company and some engineers. They've done a whole lot of research on it, and then they came up with a solution. We've had to pipe up from the school field to the campus, throughout to the houses, which is about 2.something kilometers of piping, right? And there's a reservoir that we've created, a huge reservoir that will then serve the entire houses on Premier College, including the staff bungalows. Then beyond that, we have a multi-million city accommodation for staff that we've put together. We have already built that. Took us 3 months.
Yeah, 3 months.
3 months from start to finish. Luckily, what excites me is the motto that I mentioned, changing lives, transforming communities. Every single person that has been part of this project, delivering the project, is a 99-year group member. From the architects to the engineers. So we have Parkwesi, an architect, Father Charles, an engineer and a contractor. He's the actual person who put up the building, right? And then who else was part of the building itself? We had Mark Kofi as part of the water project. So every single person who has helped us deliver this project is a 99-year group member. So that tells you that school is key to changing lives.
And it's clear from everything that you've said that it is indeed crucial, and all of those members of your year group chipping in their widow's mite to ensure that the project takes off. Who are the faces, prominent faces of your, and that is not to demean anybody, but usually with some things like this, you would have some people who are thrust forward. And what would be your expectations of this homecoming and anniversary? Rev?
Well, so our expectations for the faces, I think we limited most of our activities to our year group members because we have also the 75th anniversary. So we didn't want to bring in too many faces that will also show up.
Not clutter everything.
So yes, the chairman for the Old Students Association, he will be there. And then also most of our names that we've mentioned already, all of us are going to be present for the homecoming. For activities for the homecoming, I think from tomorrow, in fact, from tomorrow is the arrival. For those that are coming from far and near, we have those, Gorazo came in from UK just for this program, and we have more also coming from UK, others coming from the United States will be coming in. Those of us in Accra will also be moving tomorrow to Kumasi to be able to settle down for the main event from Friday. On Friday, we have the homecoming proper, which will be with the career discussions with the panel on Friday. And then also on Saturday morning, we have the games that is going to happen for us, between us and the student body, and then also with other friends and colleagues from other year groups in Ashanti region, in Kumasi specifically, who will be joining us on campus for the games. And in the afternoon, that is when we'll be commissioning the 3-bedroom house and suite that we built for the staff. Beautiful house. We'll send the images later for Joy to show for that. And on Saturday evening, we'll have a dinner for our old students. And on Sunday, we have the Thanksgiving service that will take place on campus, also being conducted by our members in the clergy who will take us through the service for that day.
Just to add to that.
Yeah, so those will be your final words. Let me hear.
All right, so just to add to that, we have decided to treat all students to a special meal.
Okay.
Every single student will have a special meal, run away from the usual adjute, gas, oil, all the stuff that we already know. Treat them to some nice meal. And then also, seniors should come early for the meal. They know me already. Well, whilst in Premier College, I used to be a top capturer. When we say top capturer, it's the guy who runs to the dining hall very quickly
and takes
the ladle.
Yo.
And then you make sure that everyone suffers. This time, we'll be doing the same thing. If you are late, you will come and meet me there. I'll be 7.
We used to call it burial in school.
Burial. That's even worse.
They'll bury you. In other words, you come and you are dead. But it's been good having you, gentlemen. We wish you the very best. 25th homecoming, 75th anniversary. And those who joined us, Reverend Ebenezer Sego, he is the 1999 year group vice president. And there's Gilbert Wedu, a.k.a. Gorazo, a fundraising committee member. I'm still not convinced about your cadet days, but that's a conversation we'll have some other time. Before we take leave of you, escape to the Royal Cozy Hills Hotel. We call it Drapa Dubai. You have seen the rest. Now it's time to see the best. Take a break from work. Take a break from the South. The Royal Cozy Hills Hotel Drapa Dubai is a place where you can relax, rewind, and re-energize. It's away from the stress of the South. Now, this is what awaits you. 1, an unforgettable safari experience. They have an amazing array of wildlife, including lions, hippopotamuses, zebras, ostriches, among many others, using their spacious and well-secured game tour vehicles or using quad bikes. 2, there's even more. Water sports such as jet skiing, boat or canoe rides, if you are the, riverine kind. Then various family games to keep you and your families excited every day. And finally, great tourist attractions in the Upper West region. You'll get to see them. The Mushroom Rock, Slave Caves, and many more. So our invitation to you, escape from the South, escape to the North, escape to the Royal Cozy Hills Hotel, Drapa Dubai for an unforgettable safari experience. Just call 0501 694 280 or 0248 844 463 to make your reservations or make further inquiries now. And that's the way we're going to wrap the AM show this morning. Like I said, we faced some challenges. Monday, Tuesday, we couldn't come your way. We're back and we're roaring again. My name is Benjamin Akakwa. I always do this together with Sweetie Abochi. Tomorrow, we'll be back. But up next, Joy News Desk. Enjoy.